Ugandan schools have been closed for 2 years now. The longest school closure that we've seen across the world. This definitely affects what the future looks like for the Ugandan leaders that we hope to have. The next panel will be talking about how we can equip the next generation to be innovative entrepreneurs. I can see that it's going to be moderated by Max Weber. I'm also very excited about the speakers that have been selected, because I've followed some of them and they have stories on, how the education system in Uganda keeps failing us. But I hope that from this session we'll have key takeaways on how we can all become advocates to make sure that our education system becomes better. Yeah. So at this point, we look forward to opening in January. What are the children going back to? Are they going back to the same curriculum? How can we make it better? Yeah. And I'm also very happy that we will have a person from one of the institutes in Uganda that will share, broadly and advise what we can do in the education sector. So at this point, allow me invite the moderator, Max Weber Asimwe, who will then invite his panel. Hand claps, please. You're welcome.
Thank you very much, Cynthia, for that intro. It makes my work very easy. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for making time to attend the session, both for those here and those online. I'm called Max Weber Asimwe. I'll be moderating the next hour or so. I work as operations manager at United Social Ventures. We offer training and advisory services to young social entrepreneurs. We focus especially on the early stage entrepreneurs, not to say we don't work with the rest. Today we have a very amazing panel that will be discussing education, like Cynthia said, but particularly innovation in education. And we'll be focusing especially on how to equip the next generation to become innovative entrepreneurs. Before I introduce the panel, please, Dennis, Dr. Diana, please come and take the podium. Sandra, Douglas, before I delve into the introductions, please come and sit up here. You can pass anywhere. So I'll start the introductions from the right. We've got Mr. Benjamin Lukwenje, seated at the right, founder Boundless Minds, a Uganda-based social enterprise that is focused on preparing young people for work through experiential learning. I hope I'm entirely persuasive there, but you'll have time to expound on that. Just after him, we've got Mr. Douglas Karugaba, founder and CEO of Innovex. Right? Innovex is at the heart of developing Africa's next generation embedded technologies. Their flagship product is a digital solution for remote payment, monitoring, and controlling solar energy systems. Next, we've got Ms. Sandra Letio, founder and CEO of Pelere, a social enterprise that aims at providing customer-centered organic cosmetics and personal care products from shea nuts. And they do all this while protecting the environment and providing a livelihood for the youth, women, and families in the communities of northern Uganda. Just next, after Sandra, we've got Mr. Dennis Dokoria, who is Communication and Marketing Manager at URI, which is Uganda Industrial Research Institute. I know he's also a trainer. I've attended some of his sessions. And finally, we've got Dr. Diana Ntamu. I hope everyone can see you from there. So Dr. Diana Ntamu is Director of the Entrepreneurship, Innovation, and Incubation Center at MUBS, Makerere University Business School. She's also our keynote speaker for the day. So very quickly, in terms of structure, we'll have 15 minutes of a keynote address from Dr. Diana Ntamu. We'll have 40 minutes after that, vital insights from our panelists. And then we'll have 20 minutes for questions from the audience. And then we can call it a wrap from there. Sounds good? Sounds good? Yeah. Perfect. Without further ado, I'll invite Dr. Diana to take the podium for the keynote address.
Thank you. A very good afternoon to you, ladies and gentlemen. I must say it is an honor to be here at the Kampala Innovation Week. I remember I was at the Kampala Innovation Week of 2019, and I loved the conversations. I really want to appreciate the organizers, Startup Uganda, for continuing to create this platform, which brings together innovators and different players in this space. I was requested to deliver a keynote address, and specifically on how to promote an innovative culture among young entrepreneurs. I want to speak from my experience as a player in the university space where I teach young people and also head an entrepreneurship, innovation, and incubation center which fosters entrepreneurship among young people and other players. So, in my presentation, I simply want to underscore the importance of young entrepreneurs or youth-led innovation, but also I'll be able to share what hinders youth innovation or what prevents or barriers that prevent young people from becoming entrepreneurs. I'll talk about the facilitating conditions and what the actors should be able to do as we plan to continue supporting entrepreneurship in this country. So, we all know that young people represent a big percentage of the population, not only globally, but in Uganda. For instance, globally, 1/4 of the world's population, according to the US Census Bureau in 2016, is young people. In Uganda, the statistics tell us that 75% of our current population are young people below the age of 30. Today, we have a conversation about the youth dividend. We are saying that even when we have a big percentage of young people, we can actually enable these young people to make a contribution in different spaces. Worldwide, young people can play a critical role in sustainable development, and indeed, young people are driving solutions to address societal challenges. In Uganda, I have seen so many stories of young people playing a great role as innovators in education, dealing with environmental challenges, in commerce, where we have seen young people leveraging technology to give us solutions. And therefore, we see that young people are doing a great role. So, young people are also more likely to start their businesses and more likely to support social causes. I remember when I was a young person, I thought I could do everything. I could do everything. And that's what we see when we are talking to our young people. I remember my students back in MOOBS, when we invite them to participate in the innovation challenges, you see that they are excited, they are energetic, and that's why we need to be talking about this. That's why we need to be talking about how to promote young entrepreneurs within our educational institutions. I've also found a number of young people that are very passionate to create social change, and I'm glad that on the panel we have Sandra. I met Sandra in some of the activities we were implementing back at MOOBS, and I could see that she had a lot of energy. And Sandra, like many others, are very passionate. They want to exploit opportunities and usually want to spearhead change in the local communities. Ladies and gentlemen, I want us to talk about promoting an entrepreneurial culture, but we first of all need to understand what is it that hinders young people to embrace entrepreneurial opportunities. What is it that hinders young people from being innovative? One of the common things I've found as I've interacted with young people in the different programs, both at MOOBS and in the local community, there is an attitude. Some of you may have experienced this, and I'm actually waiting to hear from the people here. You may have experienced an attitude towards young people that limits their confidence. I tell you that for us to understand this, it is also important to understand the history of this country. Where are we coming from in terms of entrepreneurship? We all recall that Uganda became independent in 1962, but it is also true that the colonial administrators had no intention of creating an entrepreneurial class. It is clear from what was done at the time that it was Indians and other foreigners that were engaged in business. Africans were engaged in subsistence planning and also subsistence farming and also cottage industries. So this whole idea of entrepreneurship, this whole idea of innovation, perhaps is something new that we have to deal with, but which we actually have to take advantage of. So a lot of times, the society has expected young people to finish school and go and find a lucrative job, a nice job, a good paying job. Even when young people are working on ideas, I'll give you an example. In 2009, we launched our first ever business plan competition. We worked with Dr. Patrick Bitature. He gave us money to support young people. We would receive over maybe 200 ideas, and of course we had to look at these ideas, scrutinize them, and support them. But even when we stayed with only, say, about 5 people that we would support to start their businesses, these young people always went and found another job. They stopped working on the idea. You will appreciate that innovators spend some time working on their idea. They have to overcome barriers. They have to test this idea. They have to take the necessary steps to take their product or service to the market. But the attitude towards young people limits their confidence. And then, of course, this is very related with the fact that the young people have come across financial constraints. I'll give you an example again. When we are working with young people, they have to meet costs to work on their idea. For instance, at MOOBS, we don't give anybody transport money to come to participate in the workshops. We don't give anybody money to go out and try out their idea. So the attitude combined with the financial constraint is something that is hindering young people to take advantage of entrepreneurial opportunities, and this becomes a very big problem. I know a study that was conducted by the Resilient Africa Network, and it was established that some young people who had been working on a project had actually even won $50,000, but they eventually just simply quit and they went and found jobs. So the question here is, what is this kind of attitude that is preventing our young people? People expect you, your family members, you want to meet your needs, personal needs. You want to look after your family, and you really have to go out and find a job that pays better than simply taking time to work on an innovation which you are really uncertain about. The other thing is that technology has indeed enabled and accelerated the rate at which young people are coming up with innovations and also taking advantage of entrepreneurial opportunities. But also, we must agree that while some few young people have access to technology, other young people have insufficient success, let alone having the knowledge and the skills to use this technology. So they have a good idea, but they're not able to to use this technology to take the idea to the market. I know that we have young people at the university, and we have a few of them that are keen. Of course, we are working with different partners to support the young people to acquire skills to use technology so they can launch their ventures. But I can tell you, technology is insufficiently accessible to all. And of course, the other thing is capacity building, whereas you will have a young person working on an idea, interesting idea, they actually lack the necessary entrepreneurial knowledge and business skills to take this idea to the market. And then, of course, mentorship support. Who is willing to mentor this young person, who has the time, and who meets the cost of the mentorship? And we also have another challenge of limited visibility and access to networks. I know from the previous session, the speaker talked about social capital. Social capital resides in networks, but what kind of networks do our young people belong to? Today, COVID-19 has accelerated the digitalization, and we have various online communities where young people can tap into networks, can tap into information and other resources, but we still have a problem. And even when these young people are working on their ideas, it is not easy for them to get out and popularize these ideas. And lastly, I can talk about legal constraints to say that a number of times we have had our young people work on brilliant ideas, but feel that their ideas are not protected well enough by the law, and therefore that prevents them from working with other people and also getting them to seek support. So, ladies and gentlemen, what on the other hand facilitates youth, young entrepreneurs or youth-led innovations? I talked about social networks, because young people get into these social networks. They share information, they share resources. If they are working on an idea, they can share it with somebody, and then they get feedback. Their fellow young innovators give them feedback. They work with them on an idea to get it to succeed. Today, I also see that we lack role models that provide inspiration. A lot of young people are working on ideas, but we have role models, but from different contexts. And to me, we need to be talking about role models in a context which reflects our own conditions, so that we can relate with their journeys, we can relate, or the young people can relate with the success. So role models that provide inspiration facilitate youth-led innovations, and we also need a culture that supports and celebrates the role of young people. And I want to commend Startup Uganda for organizing the Kampala Innovation Week, and also for bringing young innovators in panels for them to share their experiences and for others to draw lessons. So we need a culture that supports and celebrates the role of young people. The support and trust of others is critical, and then of course flexible space, time and opportunities. I would like to appreciate the members of Startup Uganda who are providing flexible space. When I talk about space, it is not only physical, I'm also talking about online platforms where we have different young entrepreneurs come to share their experiences, learn from each other, and also take advantage of opportunities. And I'm saying in this presentation what needs to be done for the players in the ecosystem. If we go back to the schools, I know that the school system is quite, it's at different levels. We have university students, we have primary school students, we have students in vocational institutions, and I always ask the question, yes, it is true, we are training young entrepreneurs, we are skilling them, but we do not necessarily have an innovation toolkit to provide a structure and process to support young people. I know each player in the ecosystem is doing an amazing job, but we do not have a structure, we do not have a process. So each one of us is able to do what we do in our own way. So, to me, developing a toolkit, an innovation toolkit, which can be shared by the different players at the different levels in the different institutions would be meaningful in terms of taking advantage of the innovative potential of young people. The other most crucial point here is developing capacity of institutions that support young innovators. I tell you that at MOOBS we are doing it, different universities are doing it, but we need to understand what do we need to give the young people, and how prepared are we to do that? Like I said, every actor in the ecosystem is doing something, but do we really have the capacity to do this? So, the capacity has to be developed. I'll give you an example. At Makerere University Business School, we really focus on getting the young person work on their idea, and then we can then promote them or recommend them to go to another actor in the ecosystem that can support them further. So, have we created capacity for all these different players in the ecosystem? The other important factor here or point is to recognize, celebrate, and reward organizations that are supporting young people. And I actually like to commend the Startup Uganda. I think I saw an email or something online where they're voting institutions that are doing a great job. But most importantly, I come from a research institution, and I'm asking the players here, do we have robust evidence? Do we have robust evidence to support innovation in this country? What are we working with? What are we working with? Because the conversation seems to be discursive and less based on empirical evidence. I would wish to see a study that looks at innovation, the innovation ecosystem in Uganda, the trends, where we are, what is working and what is not working for us to be able to support the young people adequately. I would like to point out also that we really need a coordinating body at the state level, at the national level, for an initiative like this, because each one of us is playing a role, in the ecosystem, and therefore we would like to see adequate policy and programmatic support driven by government to strengthen the safety net for young startups and small businesses. I have a lot more to share, but in the interest of time, ladies and gentlemen, I guess this sets the pace for our conversation. Thank you again for inviting me, and I look forward to listening to the stories here. Good afternoon.
Thank you very much, Dr. Diana, for that very insightful address. You said when you're a young person, you felt you could do everything, like many young people. But many young people are hindered by attitude, by financial constraints, lack of access to technology, lack of the know-how on how to use technology, etc. I hope you're all taking notes. You'll have the opportunity to request more clarity at the end. For starters, Douglas, I'll come to you first. If you could give us a brief let-in on Innovex, how you started, how the journey has been, the challenges you've experienced, and what the future looks like.
Thank you. Yes, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Douglas Baguma. I am the Managing Director at Innovex. And at Innovex, we are helping solar businesses fix problems around operation and maintenance of their systems. And Innovex is, it's an interesting story. I must say, it's a typical business started by, a couple of friends from the university. And today, Innovex is operating in 6 countries in Africa. Supporting close to 30 businesses, service their customers better. It was really a very humble beginning for us. We were really passionate about doing something on the continent. And coming across this challenge that very many businesses were facing, they were not, able to scale and service their customers well enough, simply because it was expensive for them to operate and maintain their portfolios. Getting the idea, was the easy thing, but getting the idea to an actual business is, I think, where the story lies. I think probably by a stroke of luck, we were lucky enough that we managed to initially, especially early in our business in Innovex, we managed to leverage, our social capital. People are talking about social capital. Our very first client was actually a friend of ours. So he had been working in this solar company facing, the similar challenges that we're addressing. And funny enough, we didn't even start what we're doing today with money. What we did, we simply pitched, our solution, which was non-existent back then, to the CEO of this business. And immediately, we received our very first payment for the idea, an idea for a solution that didn't exist. So we then went very quickly, put together this product, and then delivered to the customer. And then the same customer signed, us the very first check. And the reason why we decided to register Innovex as a company is because we needed to cash in this check. And that is how, we actively registered Innovex as a business. Personally, my background was actually engineering, funny enough. I trained as a civil engineer, but I'm practicing business today. So leveraging social capital was very important for us early in the start of the business. And this, helped us solve the big challenge that very many startups have. And that is, finding customers. I actually think the biggest reason why, very many businesses in Uganda don't see a second birthday is, they don't have, customers they're servicing. They probably have enthusiasts who use the product for a few months, and afterwards they're not able to transform that initial interest into an actual solution for the problems that this particular market could be having. I mean, even us, initially, the very first customers we had, these were people who wanted to have something unique about their business. They were very early adopters. They're usually not many. But working with them for about 18 months, it managed to help us get to the next stage of our business. And, that was raising a bit more money. Still leveraging social capital, we managed to raise money from our fellow lecturers as students. So we approached our former lecturers, talked to them about investing in us. Of course, we were not making tens of millions of shillings. We were simply very excited graduates, some of us, others were still actually in school. And, through the social capital, we managed to raise our first 100 million shillings without, approaching any investors, simply approaching friends. They usually call them, the FF, because these people are not giving you money because they expect to make money off of it, but because they believe in you as an entrepreneur, they see the excitement and the passion, and they will invest. Of course, there's been a lot of other challenges because even getting it from that very small startup to probably what I can call an SME now, scaling to 6 countries is not easy. We've so far raised close to, is it 7 figures? Sorry, I won't mention. But this has, enabled us scale, and it's been a lot of, building relationship on top of relationship. And that is how, as Innovex, we've managed to conquer some of the challenges that we could have faced.
Thank you very much, Douglas. Sandra, I know you've also made considerable progress with Pelere. What would you say are the core characteristics or competencies that an entrepreneur should have in order to succeed in their venture?
Should I start from my story?
You could give us
A small brief.
2 minutes on the story and then...
Okay, all right. Thank you so much. I think for me, I first of all didn't look at being an entrepreneur. My first thing is I studied very hard. I was one of those kids that didn't come from a very good background. So I knew education was my only way out. And I did PCB math, knowing I'm going to, at that time we used to do four principles, knowing I'm going to get a ready job. Now, when my results came out for S6, government had given me nursing, which was not an option I wanted. So I crossed the engineering world, and that's how I did my first degree. Now, after my first degree, I failed to find a job. At that time, that was about 2012. I looked around, 2011, I looked around, I couldn't find any. And my mom gave me a recipe. She told me someone who could be able to teach me something, a skill. So that's how I started making soap with the little money I had from my veranda. Later on, it was something I was just passing time as I looked for a job. Then I got from 1,000 shillings to 100,000. I was making my own money. And I could now afford some of my basic needs. I took now the thing seriously. I could make the soap in the night, and then during the day, I could be able to sell to other people. So more clients started flowing in. Now, with that also, I had an inspiration from my grandmom. She had a flawless skin at about 88, and she told me about the shea, the Nilotica shea trees in the north. And that's how I get another inspiration of starting the line of cosmetic of the shea butter. When I started that, I started selling, I started making money. From 100,000 a week, I started holding like 1 million. I started getting more money, you know. And then one of those days when I'm moving, that's when I think I approached Uganda Industrial Research Institute, and that's when I was able to start improving the products. To cut the long story short, I've been in business for 10 years now, from a humble beginning. I employ quite a good number of people. Another inspiration that was in 2014 when a lady walks up to me, and at that time we used to buy the canoes. And she tells me, you know what, Sandra? She was in tears. She's telling me, by you buying from us, you're making me pay my kids' school fees. So it touched me a little. I'm like, hey, I'm adding value to someone, you know? And I think that's when I took it much more serious. And now I started looking out for standards. I started innovating more products. And at Uganda Industrial Research Institute, I could use their labs. I could have a chemist at my disposal. And I started researching more about this. And then I was told there were no standards for shea in Uganda at the Bureau of Standards. And that's how I started saving money to go to the US. I did the training. I did the certification. And yes, that's where we are now today at 10 years. Now, as an entrepreneur, there are definitely very many challenges. For me, at starting, I first of all started with a very humble background. I started with about 30,000 shillings when I started. That was in 2012. That was very little money. But the other thing that I started with was my brain, because the brain plays a big role. I've seen people having all the money. I've seen people setting up all what they have. But when you don't have the brain behind your business, it will fall out very soon. So for me, it was, first of all, the brain behind, then the time, you know, because as a young person, I started a business at 23, you know, and right now it's 10 years down the road. So I capitalized on that, the time I had, but also the brain and the little funding that I kept on having. So one of those challenges, those are one of the biggest things as an entrepreneur. The other thing is a lot of research.
Sorry, I'll just come back to you shortly on that. I'll move to you, Dennis. Sandra has mentioned Yuri. So you've done a lot of work in supporting her and entrepreneurs of the sort. What do you think are the core competencies? Or before someone comes to Yuri, what person, what character, what traits do they need to have to succeed as an entrepreneur?
Thank you. I hope I can be heard.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, I'm Dennis Dokoria, and I work with the Uganda Industrial Research Institute, which is a government parasite organization that supports industrialization. And we continuously offer support to very many young entrepreneurs. And I'm happy to be here with Sandra. And I'm also here with my lecturer, so I'm humbled. Yes, and you know, she taught me innovation at the university when I was doing the MBA. But what we have found at Uganda Industry Research Institute is that the challenge that young people have is an environment that gives them the opportunity to try out and to innovate, because our education system is very rigid and it has not been able to give the young people such an environment where they are able to try and fail and try again. So at Uganda Industrial Research Institute, we create such an environment where the young people are able to learn by doing. They're able to try something and do it. But one of the challenges we have also found is that many of these young people don't have the ability to persist, because many young people want the quick fix. They want it done. You know, Sandra is talking about 10 years down the road. But you'll find that a young person who's starting a business, let's say in Sheer, wants to be Sandra within a few months, you know. So one of the things that we try to get these people to understand is that innovation or starting an enterprise is not an event, but it is a process. It is baby steps. You learn, you fall, but you get up and you persist on doing it, and you will get where you want to go. So as an institution, that is what we do. So we believe that the persons, the entrepreneurs, the young people should be people who are able to persist. They should be people with initiative. You know, you have the initiative, because when you come to URI, sometimes you find that people come there and, you know, being a government institution, they would like to be purely dependent. And when you have that mindset, then you may fall. But because if you have a growth mindset and you know that I want to do this, I have the initiative to continue driving, I have the initiative to put in more effort, then you'll get where you want to go. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dennis. You've hinted on persistence, patience, passion. Someone talked about building social capital earlier. I would now want to move to Benjamin. These traits and many others that I'm sure you're aware of, how can we as the ecosystem build these traits in entrepreneurs? What can be done to, because I'm sure most of them are not naturally attained, so how do we build this with the entrepreneurs?
Thank you. Building these traits is not something that happens, it's a process, right? And it's not something that happens in a short time. The most successful entrepreneurs are always learning how to build persistence and patience and grit, and how to suffer and not give up. Even the very, very top guys. So it's not it's the first thing that we must understand is that it's not something that happens in one day. If you're going to build a business over the next 50 years, you're going to be practicing these things every single day, because that's simply part of the journey. But we can start to teach these things from an early stage. Now, one of my pet subjects is of course, education, talking about education. And one of the things that I think we could be doing there is allowing our young people to start early. Most of the entrepreneurs that you find in these spaces probably started their businesses after they were done with school or had dropped out of school, right? It's only maybe in the last 10 years where you might find people that are in school but are also running businesses, right? Because we've started running entrepreneurship programs in schools, or have started teaching things like design thinking and soft skills, or what's called 21st century skills, just now. That also doesn't apply to every school. In fact, there's even no policy on soft skilling in this country. So skills like critical thinking, problem solving, creativity, resilience are not taught in our schools, right? But that's something we could do. In fact, it is an opportunity for entrepreneurs thinking about stuff that they could do, right? So, which takes me to like how we can teach those skills, right? I think that because we are obsessed with passing exams, with passing PLE, passing S4 and S6, there's nothing to learn from passing a national exam, apart from you proving your ability to remember and reproduce things in the way that they've been given. The skills that just got mentioned are skills learned out of practice, right? So there's no reason why, if you can start a business at 23, there's no reason why you couldn't have experimented with that business at 13. But imagine how much better you could have been at that business if you had started it 5 or 10 years ago. And it's a question for all of us, right? How much better would we have been if we had been starting the things that we are doing now, if we had known them, if we had done them 5 years before we started? But because we haven't yet, and I'm using yet because I know that many of us are pushing people in government to start thinking about how we can accelerate this process. We haven't yet gotten to a point where these skills, these disciplines, these values are part of our growth, are part of our learning. That's why there's that disconnect, right? There's the disconnect between what's taught in school and what the market demands. And this is not just for entrepreneurship. It's the same for employability, right? People who are looking for ready human resource to employ say they can't find people who are ready because the things we are teaching are very different from what the market demands, but also how we are teaching them, right, is important. So if we are going to get to a point where we can create that environment, it doesn't start, you know, at the top. It starts at the bottom with us rethinking how our young people learn in the school system. And asking them to remember and reproduce things in exams is just not the right thing.
Thank you very much. Benjamin, start early. Everyone has heard that. I've also noted your controversial remarks on passing exams. I don't know if Dr. Diana totally agrees, since I'm sure you set exams. But turning to you, Doctor, so there's this ideal situation, what entrepreneurs should learn. We've got the formal education system. How do we blend these two? Because it's ideal versus reality. So how do we blend, how do we bring this entrepreneurship concept into the formal education system?
Again, thank you very much for this opportunity, and thanks to the panelists here for sharing, and Dennis, I'm very glad that we meet again. But also, I must say that, yes, it is possible. It is possible once we appreciate the contribution of entrepreneurial skills and what they can do for a nation like Uganda that has a lot of resources, but we do not have what it takes to make the most of these resources. And I must say that back at Makerere University Business School, we're the first, I should say, university to introduce entrepreneurship education back in the 90s. Every student of MOOBS will take an entrepreneurship course before they graduate. So in other words, they are aware of entrepreneurship. And I'll tell you what is interesting that we are doing. At MOOBS, we have outreach centers like our center, Entrepreneurship, Innovation, and Incubation Center, which creates awareness on who entrepreneurs are. And also, we have programs where young people can experiment with their ideas. So, the first thing we do is inspire. You talked about getting the young people to develop their skills, and I love that. We also need to inspire them, because I've also seen a number of young people participating in challenges, but possibly for different reasons. And you find them moving from one incubator to another, and they're not actually up to anything. Perhaps they are not inspired enough. So we inspire. After inspiring, we get them to participate in programs, ideation programs, and we are working with different partners so that we have somebody that has an idea. So it is possible that all our universities or educational institutions can create some kind of activity outside the classroom that is meant to tap into the innovative potential of the young person. To me, that is something that can be done. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Diana. Benjamin, would you want to throw something in there? Do you think it's possible, or do you think Dr. Diana is giving us lip service?
I mean, it obviously is possible. And I like that Dr. Diana is saying this, because we need a lot more people in education to realize that this is possible to do. And that, because that will accelerate the process of doing these things. When we started Boundless in 2017, we'd basically get young people in senior 6 vacation, right? And the requirement was that they would go on our website, download a form, which asks them for what the problem in their community is and how they would solve it. So they submit that. They were in Essex, right? And then they would come in, they go through this ideation and design thinking process, which even at the time, I must admit, even we who were teaching it didn't quite understand it, right? But that process of sending them back into their communities to discover problem, discover solutions, talk to their community members and leaders, develop their confidence in themselves, even for them, yeah, was a different process of learning from what they were used to, right? In school, where they would have to sit and take in what the teachers were giving them. But you imagine, every single year we have about 100,000 kids that finish senior 6 and they sit at home, do nothing, right? These guys constitute about 1% of our next, they contribute about 1% of our next human resource, right? Whether it's as entrepreneurs or as employers and employees. For 8 months, they're sitting at home, not doing anything, right? How much more could you do with those people, right? That's the first thing. Then you have primary schools or secondary schools with maybe 8 or 10-hour days, right? Requiring 10-year-olds, 13-year-olds to wake up at 4 p.m., rather 4 a.m., and carry huge books, huge bags of notes and stuff, and come home with homework and stuff like that. The things they need to learn, yeah, are not those things that we are requiring them to do, right? I think with little adjustments, yeah, even if, say, school days ended at 3 p.m., yeah, and if you want to keep them in school for another 2 hours, those 2 hours are spent with them learning to think and solve problems and build, we wouldn't lose anything, right? We've had 2 years in which children have basically not studied, and the world has not collapsed. I mean, it has collapsed for some people forever because they might never return to school, but even that tells you the crisis that we have a crisis of, critical thinking here, that even when schools closed, we were unable to figure out how we can continue learning for students, right? And when schools reopen, there's a significant portion of students that are going to come back to, that are not going to come back to school, and we've still not figured out what we can do for them. So I think that there are certainly things that will need to be done, right? That can be done in terms of reimagining and redesigning how we think about education. But that cannot be done if we are unwilling, or we think that these problems we can wait them out. We won't wait them out. They will just stay.
Okay. Thank you very much, Benjamin. Douglas, I'll come back to you. I know that it's very difficult for entrepreneurs starting out there, but once you've beaten that pioneer gap at a certain level, It's easier for you to access funding. It's easier for you to build your social capital, etc. For these people who are just starting, who might look at you as someone who is talking about stuff they don't really understand, what do you think are the 2 or 3 things that could really help them build the pioneer gap?
Thank you, Max. And maybe first I'll share about, education, because I really have education close at heart. Simply because I must say, back in school, I really did quite well, because if I was not number 1, maybe I was number 2. And, I had that perception that if, I conquered education, life, would be a straight line. It would be set out for me. But, now as an employer, if you asked me whether education is enough, definitely the perspective is different. Education alone is really not enough, both for the entrepreneurs as well as, for the people that you want to give an opportunity to work with you. Well, when you look at us starting out, I must say that to encourage people that are just starting, the fact is no one, maybe a few people that are lucky are born entrepreneurs. But personally, if I look at myself and if you talk to the people that I went to school with, definitely they would expect me to be maybe one of the best engineers somewhere. So when they see me in business, they're really surprised. So the fact is, entrepreneurship is something that anyone can do. But importantly, you need to have the interest, you need to be interested, and you need to have the self-awareness of where your blind spots are. What this means is you need to know, what you need to learn, which I think is why education is a problem, because when you go to school, they teach you everything, even those things you may never use in a lifetime. So you as an entrepreneur or you as a student, you need to have the self-awareness of what actually you don't, or what you need to learn that is going to help you on whatever career journey that you choose, whether as someone who is employed, which is actually very fine, or someone who is going to be an entrepreneur, even better. So you need to know some of those blind spots. And this is something, just to encourage you, this is something that anyone can do. You just need to have the interest. If personally I can, do a 360 turn from, academics now into entrepreneurship, and I think you've met people who are usually very good at school. It's rare they become good at business. So if I could have that turnaround myself, I'm sure that this is someone that, this is something that anyone can do. You just have to have the interest. And most importantly, you need to persist. But something I must say about persistence doesn't mean if it doesn't work today, you come back tomorrow. It means if it doesn't work today, you come back tomorrow and do it in a different way. That is very important. If it fails, the reason why it's failing is because the way you're doing it is not right. Try to reflect on it, find out why it's failing, and do it differently.
Douglas, thank you very much for that. Dennis, I'll come to you now. We're talking about educating entrepreneurs, improving the quality of entrepreneurs. Looking at Uganda as a country, why is the quality of entrepreneurs even important? Why the focus on this?
Thank you. I believe it's very important as a country to have good quality entrepreneurs. And I would just like to digress a little bit first to chip in something about education, then I get to that. Oh, yeah? Yeah, just in a minute, What I would like to chip in the education arena is that I believe that our education system should encourage teachers to support learners to be able to question, explore, and take risk, because that's where the problem is. Now, for example, when we even start from home, at our home base, the young children ask a lot of questions, but we start by silencing them and stopping them from asking those questions. Neither do we want them to take any risk. So I think as an education, the education system should be able to create such an environment, and teachers should be able to give the learners such an opportunity to do that. Now, back to issues to do why quality entrepreneurship is important. One of the reasons why it's important for this nation is that it will improve the standard of living, because people will be able to innovate, will be able to improve on products and processes that can also improve on our livelihoods. For example, recently we had an Innovation Science Technology Week, and there were quite a number of innovations that were presented there which could improve on the standard of living. It could also create jobs, because when people innovate, when entrepreneurship grows, because you could hear from Sandra and our colleague Douglas that they are employing people. Now, if they had not innovated, if they had not come up with entrepreneurship, then jobs would not have been created. The taxes, you know, the more entrepreneurs we have, the more businesses are growing in this country, then the economy is improved by the tax base is improved. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dennis. Sandra, you talked about, you've been running the business for 10 years, right? Do you think this journey could have been shortened to 5 years?
Yes.
Likely? How could this have been done?
I think right now, the ecosystem has a lot of people that can support you. Way back then, we used to get, for example, if you're registering a business, you had to do it yourself, or you had to hire someone, which was very expensive. Right now, the processes are very short. You're able to register your business at a very short time. There are very many incubation centers that are working to support more entrepreneurs. I didn't have that chance. I think my first award that I won was UNCTAD. That was United Nations Conference for Trade and Development in 2016. And trust me, when I went to pitch, I just went to pitch. I even don't know what pitching was. You know, at that time, that's how green we were. No one was supporting you. You had to support yourself. You're pushing through the hard environment of Uganda. But right now, everyone is willing to support you. There are even people who are willing to write for you proposals. There are people willing to fundraise for you. I think there's a lot of support right now. And I think for me, my encouragement to young entrepreneurs out there is the environment is much more better. And you're able even to do it much more than what we used to do. For example, I think I started doing my business plan. I used to only set goals for the first 5 years. But then after the five years next, I now needed a business plan. That's how I knew what a business plan meant, which I didn't have back then before. So right now, the environment is much more better. There are very many people who are willing to support you. There are incubation centers. There are people willing to mentor you. There are people that have even walked the journey before. So I think it's a better ecosystem right now than back then. And even government, because at that time, even the policies were very hard on us. But right now, policies are even much more better. Everyone is willing to see a local investor grow. Compared to back then when we started, it was more of the foreign investors that were supporting. If you come and you're saying you're a local investor, they'll look at you and say, where are you going? You know, people couldn't believe in what Ugandans could do. But right now, there's a lot of support.
Thank you very much, Sandra.
Yeah.
I'll open you up to the audience in case there are any questions that are there. Sorry, I don't know the names yet, but. Yes, we can, yes.
Like I was saying, as someone who runs an innovation space like this one, a lot of the things that you hear in the corridors is we're scared to come for pitch competitions because our ideas will be stolen. Now, a lot of what I hear in the education sector, the people that should be holding the hands of these innovators, you know, we're talking about how do we start entrepreneurship at that level. What are you doing to protect them? Because instead of replicating their ideas, because maybe these lecturers already have networks and social capital, I would like to see what, especially because you're working with MOOBs, what are you doing there to protect the young people and their ideas.
Thank you. Again, I must say that that has been a challenge for us as well, because quite a number of times when we had our young people come to participate in competitions and challenges, they would back out. You would work with them, and after some time, they simply disappear, and they lose out on the opportunity to get mentorship or support from other people. So initially, we have been working with non-disclosure agreements, but also working with the URSB to come and create awareness about what they are doing to support young people, work on their ideas with MOOCs. That's what I can say for now. Thank you. It's challenging, I should say. Very challenging, but we are working with the non-disclosure agreements initially. Thank you.
Douglas, just a minute for you to come in there.
Oh, thank you, Max. I think personally on the idea, on the discussion on stealing ideas, I'll probably speak to the entrepreneurs. Well, an idea is, I mean, just that is what it is. An idea is not a business. An idea is not money. Not until you get it out there. Not until you get someone else to fall in love with it. So if you're scared to come and share, where you'd probably meet your next investor, meet your next very good co-founder, then this idea is never going to grow into a business. It's never going to be good enough. So I really think the attitude as entrepreneurs we should adopt is feel free to share, and I think to a certain extent, if your best option is to get this idea and keep it from public and never do anything with it, I think it's okay for it to be stolen anyway, so that we can save lives with that idea.
Thanks,
so,
Douglas. Sorry, I want to cut you off there. Benjamin, just a minute for you also.
So the thing is, and this is something that I wanted to pick from what the doctor said, right? That you see, there's an aspect. One of the aspects that are missing is mentorship and role modeling, right? And when we think about education, the quality of our entrepreneurs and the quality of our human resource in general is not going to exceed the quality of their teachers. Right? It won't. So first we need to look at what quality of teachers do we have before we have these kinds of discussions, right? But that also means that there are opportunities for professionals to get into classrooms, right? And I don't see a lot of that happening. We have all of these conversations every so often. There's a panel of experts happening in every part of this city almost every day, talking about education and what needs to be happening in classrooms. And they are not in the classrooms and lecture rooms working with students, talking to students, telling them how they can build these things a lot better. So I'd like to see that gap between industry and classrooms and lecture rooms closed, which brings us to the question of intellectual property. If you actually think about, like all of us, I mean, okay, maybe not speaking for everyone. I've been in this social entrepreneurship space for about maybe 8 years now. And in those 8 years, I've only met one idea that I had never seen or heard about anywhere else. One in 8 years. And I interact with entrepreneurs every single day. So if there's someone that's worried about getting your idea stolen, if you just went to Google and Googled that idea, you might find hundreds of people doing it in India and Brazil and Bangladesh and wherever, which are like hubs for entrepreneurs. Don't get scared. Your idea is most likely unoriginal than it is likely to be original, right? But if you're scared, approach hubs. They probably have networks with intellectual property lawyers and URSB and what. There's someone that's not going that's not out to steal your idea that you should talk to. But also let's stop this high horse thing, thinking that our ideas are original. They really aren't.
Thank you very much, Benjamin. Again from the audience, there's a gentleman. If you could have a mic.
Yes, thank you. My question goes to Doctor and the gentleman from Yuri. What's your take for the young people that come from up country and have ideas and maybe probably they are not financially pampered to camp around Kampala and incubate their ideas into reality? Thank you.
I think Dr. Diana, you can start there.
Okay, thank you. Indeed, you're right that what I see happening is that the support is concentrated in the urban areas, Kampala, Jinja, the cities. The young people there have the advantage, the privilege to access the support that is present in the ecosystem. And to me, there is a lot more that can be done by the different actors, because I want to believe that innovative potential is spread around the country. To find young people that make it from upcountry to a challenge in Kampala, they have walked a very long journey to get there. And this is something that needs to be done by the different players. At MOOBS, we have upcountry campuses. We have a campus in Jinja, Arua, Mbarara, and Bali. And our Entrepreneurship, Innovation, and Incubation Center is able to tap into the innovative potential of young people when we go to those centers. But I can tell you that that can only be a drop in the ocean. There is a lot more that the players can do. But I want to say something. It is possible also if this is done in partnerships, because perhaps you're not able. We do not have the resources to go and spread everywhere and do what we do everywhere. But this is where I find partnerships very useful, to work with other actors to reach out to young people upcountry. But I believe that we have a lot of great ideas spread across, and that's what we need to go for. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This one? I think Dr. Diana has said it all, because it's very important that we leverage the networks and the partnerships, because as an institution, the best we are doing so far is that we are setting up what we call satellite value addition centers, where we have some of our staff in some of these areas. But other than that, we are not yet spread out all over. One of the things that we are still, which is in plan, is to set up hubs like our hub in Nakawa in different parts of the country. In fact, we recently set up a facility, an innovation facility at Namambe, and the initial plan was to set up 4, so that we have these facilities in the 4 regions of Uganda. And if we have them in the 4 regions of Uganda, then we're able to replicate what we're doing here in those 4 areas. But we've not yet been able to get the funding to do that. But that is something that we have in plan. But right now, we can also leverage the digital platforms, so that wherever you are, you can get mentorship, you can get support from our scientists conversing with you over the different digital platforms, so that they're able to support you in one way or the other. Then if there is anything they are not able to do, which requires it being done on the ground, then probably you'll be either required to come or probably send your prototype or something, so that they will be able to work with it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dennis. We have another question at the back. Just one last question, we're done. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Mine is not a question, just to mention that Rock Telecom has a partnership with an organization called Hello World. Now, Hello World is an NGO from America that is keen or is interested in spreading the reach of the internet to far-to-reach places, and in so doing, using it to educate the people. So there's a partnership that Rock Telecom has with Hello World, and in so doing, we have set up a couple of hubs. There are a couple of hubs in Nachi Valley, which is a refugee camp, that side of Isinjiro. There are some hubs in Fort Portal, and then a few here and there in Kampala. There's a plan to increase them, to expand that, and I believe that will possibly contribute to being able to bring that kind of arrangement closer to the people up country. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I would like to close the session, but first thank the panel really for making it and giving us your wonderful insights. I know that there'll be an opportunity for the rest to network with you at the back after this. Douglas, social capital, you raised 100M from friends and family. That's something. Dr. Diana talked about attitude, the importance of attitude, and the fact that when we're young, we believe we can do everything, but as we grow old, I don't know what happens. You could ask her what happens at the back. Benjamin, formal education alone is not the answer. Yeah, start early. Dennis, patience, perseverance, and a lot of the support that Yuri gives to entrepreneurs out there. Sandra, you brought your products. I don't know if everyone noticed, so you have an opportunity to see them at the back, but you used your head. So it's very important to use your head as an entrepreneur. And to the audience, both online and here, you've been very kind. Thank you very much. We'll close it here.
Thank you. Dennis, good to see you again.
Thank you very much, Max. Thank you very much, panel. You may please take your seats. Very insightful information that has been shared with us this morning. I feel I'm of the view that if we start to talk about education, we can never stop, especially education in the Ugandan perspective, because there is a lot that we need to do in this industry. But I also believe that when we apportion time to things, we lose the value that we can get out of extensive conversation. But I also equally believe that when we apportion time to things still, we are able to communicate within the parameters that have been given to us. So if you are interested in engaging any of the panelists, we are going to set up at the back. There will be a networking area. Do not hesitate to walk up to any of them and ask them what was your model like in building Boundless Minds, in building Innovex. What are you doing at, MOOBS? Sandra, what are you doing at Pelere? Yes. And then Yuri, what are you doing? So that you can see how you can learn and innovate around the education space in Uganda. So at this point, we have our next panel ready. And they will be talking about how to expand your business. Yesterday we had, one of the guests in the room. She kept on asking questions, numerous questions. I think she was also called Sandra. She kept on asking numerous questions of, I have started a business, but I don't seem to know how to expand it. I do not know how to employ. I do not know how to apportion my money. I do not know how to break through or break even. I can't even calculate my net worth. So this next panel will help us, hopefully will help us understand how we can expand businesses. To the audience that is watching us online, we thank you very much. And it's about now that I invite the next moderator, who is also my co-MC, Alan Ananura, founder of iVenture Africa. Please come and invite your panel. Alan, do you want us to do this again? These people must clap. Please go back. Let me call you. Come bouncing, yeah? At this point, allow me invite the next moderator, Alan Ananura. Great, well done.
Thank you so much, Cynthia. I didn't know you were sweet, actually. Yes, we have a very rich resource with us today in our panel. Put your hands together as I invite Elizabeth Mushabe of Rosaho Bistro. I believe they have two magnificent restaurants in the heart of Kampala, in Kololo and Naguru, I believe. She will be telling us more. She's not just a restaurateur. Elizabeth is also in digital work. She's co-founder at SMS1. Next, we shall have Mr. Amanya Athaire of Rock Telecom. They're giving us internet today. They've really been good to us. Some love for him, please, before we send him back. Third, we have Edwin Muzahura. Edwin Muzahura is a serial entrepreneur. He's former marketing manager and PR of UTB. I say that because he was involved in selling Uganda abroad. He really sold us across the globe, and I'd like us to hear from him what that experience was like. Edwin, you're welcome. I'll kick off without wasting time with lead questions. They're just lead questions that will help us understand the process of, getting to the next level in one's business. The first question is, and directed to you, Mr. Amanya, but feel free, panelists, to chip in where you feel he may have missed out or even lied to us. Yeah, so Mr. Amanya, you're in the tech world. You've told us about your partnership with Hello World and how you are creating hubs in the hard-to-reach areas. I've had experience in the refugee settlements myself in Nachivale and Oruchinga. There's no power, there's no infrastructure, one might assume. How are you overcoming these hurdles, first of all, to reach there? And then speak to, I also see that your business is expanding with the partnership with Hello World. Speak to how partnerships have enabled you to expand, but also the technology itself that you have employed to expand, and what startups can use, what packages you have, what infrastructure they need to make it to the next level.
Thank you very much, Alan. This microphone here always causes someone to tilt their heads towards, but we shall maneuver. Anyway, my name is Amanya Athaire, just for the benefit of those that perhaps did not hear, and I work with Rock Telecom. Allow me to say something small about Rock Telecom. Rock Telecom is an internet service provider, and in this year of our Lord 2021, in October, we made 15 years in the business. It's no small feat, and it's something that we are really, really proud of. I must say that Rock Telecom is a Ugandan-owned and a Ugandan-based internet service provider. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's probably still the only one standing. But we shall confirm those statistics a little later. So, Alan, you asked about our partnership with Hello World, overcoming the hurdles. In any business, as you're growing, as you're expanding your business, it most likely indicates that you're also increasing in territory. because that means you're taking your services or your products to a place that is not right here in your comfort zone where you are. So naturally, as you go to new areas, the climate of the place, maybe the language barrier, maybe the infrastructure there, maybe the regulations around, like in Uganda, in Kampala here, there are strict regulations around building fiber, especially in the city. If it's not underground, then it's not there. But you find like up country, it's a little lax because they haven't perhaps gotten that advanced or that strict on some of these things. So taking the services up country, yes, first of all, the roads are not the easiest to go through. I can say that one. Our country is beautiful and it has many different terrains out there. So you overcome the hurdle of the roads, because to expand you need to be able to go out there and do some sort of survey and get an understanding of what is out there, who can I reach out to if I take my services there. So you'll find that the survey that you will do there will indicate to you that, okay, my service can best fit in this location versus this one in, say, Moroto. We recently went into Moroto. And you look for leveraging maybe partners or people that you can work with. In this business of telecom, you can never work as an island, because even the internet that we use to provide to our customers, we don't per se own it. We also pick it from somewhere out of Africa. And there are people who transport it for us and people who bring it for us here. So we work with partners to be able to deliver it there. Now, when we go up country, you're going to find that you'll need partners. One, partners to host your equipment there so that it can then spread to the rest of the people there. Two, you'll need to be friendly to the local leaders there, because they are the ones who are going to make your life much easier. Then, of course, you could also say that it's important to have your staff or your employees on board with the changes that you want to do. When you're going to Moroto and you say, Amanya, we're taking you to Moroto, it will hit me for the first time as a shock, because I know nobody there. I don't have a clue of maybe the language they speak. I have a family with small children and other people that maybe might depend on me. So if I'm not on board with that, I will be hesitant. I'll look for the next exit or something like that. So it's important that we get people on board that we can work with. And then, of course, taking these services there, these products, has a money cost, a money element to it. Like I said, when you're driving there comes with fuel and a vehicle and servicing it perhaps. And of course, when you're setting up in a place away from here, the same kind of infrastructure you have, you replicate it the other side. So if it is an office, you need chairs, water dispenser, maybe a table, an extension cable, and all those things to replicate exactly the same thing that side. So you asked about the partnerships. Yes, the partnerships are imperative. It is important to have those partnerships because they make it easier for you. You might have a partner for, say, the fuel station that you fuel from. Because as a normal person, when you go to fuel, maybe Shell will tell you, bring cash. But when you have a partnership with them, you have a payment plan, maybe end of month or end of the week or something like that. So the partnerships are important because, one, they help you to host your equipment. Two, they help you to deal with the running of the business day to day, where you would otherwise incur an immediate cash input. And you know, it makes it easier when you have those partners on board to take you through the beginning.
Yes. Thank you so much, Mr. Amanya. Very clearly, it has come out in practical terms that to expand, you need partnerships. Going it solo, winging it alone is not going to take you far. He also mentioned public relations, you know, dealing with the people in a new environment. It requires you to have a level of, I believe, emotional intelligence.
Yes.
Relating with people in different environments requires you to really think and lean on somebody else. What has been your experience, Liz? You recently expanded your business. Tell us about that with a brief background.
Hello, good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
My name is Elizabeth Mushave, and I am the proprietor of Rosa Ho Bistro in Naguru and in Kololo. So, as Alan has rightfully mentioned, I did recently open up a new branch in Kololo, and that was in June, which was at the height of the lockdown. And I must say it was a bold step, but it's actually something that I had planned right from September 2019. And it got to a point where I couldn't hold back regardless of the situation that was on the ground. So then, we had to get there and start. I would say it involved a lot of negotiation. Number one, negotiation with my landlord for him to be lenient and give us an extended, grace period for us before he began to count the rent which we had paid in advance, which he did to the best of his ability, but of course he kept saying he had bank loans to pay. So that was the first negotiation. The next negotiation was with my team, because of course moving to a new location meant greater responsibilities, meant more work for them, but it did not necessarily mean that the customers were going to come immediately. So that meant that they had to be willing to actually work in the new with the conditions they were in before. Okay? It means they had to be willing not to take a salary pay, but a salary increase with the new responsibilities, but to be willing to grow with the business. And I must say the advantage, what helped me is that I've always taken my team as partners for me in the business. So right from when they came on board, I've always shared the vision with them. I've always shared with them, at least the top management, shared with them how the business is going, what challenges we are going through, and then also taken an interest in them as persons. So they feel like the business belongs to them. There is a sense of ownership. So there is this interest in making sure that Rosaho succeeds against all odds. So that kind of really helped, because internally, the internal client, who is my team, are willing to take the risk with me. So the risk is not just on me, 100%, but they are together with me on that. And then, of course, also negotiation with the suppliers. Okay, be patient with us, allow us to pay slowly so that we can be able to manage our cash flows. So expansion also involves the clients, because the clients had made that demand. Going into a new territory was really, in a way, out of the demand, because where I was in Naguru, the space was limited, and we couldn't cater to families because of the location. It's very near the road. There is no boundary, so families couldn't come with their children to enjoy the space. So expansion was also based on the need of the client, the external client, who said, okay, would love a bigger space where we can have meetings, where we can celebrate milestones in life, come together with our families and feel safe. And then, of course, also realizing who my clientele was. I knew that the clientele that I had needed to be with better conditions, which I wasn't able to fulfill at my Naguru space, beautiful as it was. So that is what informed my decision.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth, for that insight on expansion. You mentioned relations with your with your landlord and how he was able to extend you a grace period. For me, that sounds in startup language like bootstrapping.
Yes.
Like, how little money do you need to execute? Can somebody give you a grace period? Can you store your equipment somewhere in the meantime as you look for the money to pay? Just as long as it's not coming out of your pocket. I mean, you're looking for those resources that you have, looking at what you have,
Yes.
not what you don't have. Those were my takeaways from, that was my major takeaway from what you've just shared. At this point, I'd like to hear from Edwin. Edwin, you have sold Uganda. Please explain what they mean, lest they think you have the keys or something.
Thank you. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I must correct Aaron. When you say I've sold Uganda, it sounds like I traded Uganda on the stock exchange. I was marketing for Uganda, and literally that is. But just before, I had a good opportunity before I worked for government to have worked with the professional private companies. And that's what encouraged me to get out of government as soon as possible. I worked with East African breweries, or Uganda breweries, and then I also had an opportunity to work with the Diageo International, which owns East African breweries. But I also worked, my first job was with Nation Media Group, which most of you know. It owns Monitor and NTV. I am the one who opened Nation Carriers in this country. So I had a background of the private practice, private company business. Then I went to government where I was head of marketing and PR for Uganda for about 8 to 9 years. Then I said before I clock 40, it was my plan to go and start my own businesses. Okay, to focus on my own businesses because I had started my businesses much earlier. I had run a business for over 10 years, but without being there. So I want to talk about marketing, particularly both for Uganda as a country, but also for my own businesses. I run a company called Net Worth Consult, Net Worth, from your own networks. And we are into social safeguards on infrastructure projects, but also highly targeting and trying to get involved in the oil and gas sector. We also run other ventures in the luxury travel industry, but also in an NGO world. But I want to focus on Net Worth Consult. So I want to talk about marketing and growth in its perspective, just like you heard from my colleague Liz and the gentleman as well. Especially in this time, growth and marketing, because you want to market because you want to grow, you want to widen, you want to expand your business. And it has been very interesting. I find people who have found an opportunity in a particular time we're in. You all know we have had 2 years or plus where really a lot of businesses are shrinking, are going under the water, some of them, some are floating by. So when you find businesses that have expanded or are growing, it's a very interesting and very intricate part that we should diagnose. My journey for marketing basically depends on what you set as the preposition for marketing, what differentiates you from the other people. Uganda is an amazing country. It was not very hard for me to market. It's the only country probably the size of the Oregon, the state of USA, slightly bigger than the United Kingdom combined in space, but with a vast resource from fauna, flora, land, water, and everything. So we positioned ourselves not as a mass tourism destination, but a unique destination that looks for the high-end and medium clientele with peculiar products that are not common or obvious to so many countries. Outstanding for most of them, all of you probably know, the mountain gorilla, which is in only 3 countries, Uganda having the highest number, 70% of the remaining population, Rwanda and Congo, of course. Yeah, but also we had features. Uganda has features that you will not find anywhere. Uganda is the most diverse country in the whole world, by the way, with over 56 tribes and so many dialects, small as we are, if you have gone to Harvard libraries and researched, or Japan, I saw Jinka here, they will tell you, this is the most entrepreneurial country in the world with the youngest population. So Uganda can be sold on different platforms as a country, and so that gave us, different platforms to sell it. The only challenge we have in this country, again, and I hope that the discussion that was going on earlier, is how much do we invest into some of these services. I think Uganda in the whole East African region by that time, before I left, was spending least in marketing its destination. And that again becomes a problem. No matter how good you are, it's just like they say, you are winking at somebody so pretty but in the dark. You must be able to invest resources like you heard from Rock Telecom. You want to grow, you have heard from Liz. You must invest money, you must widen your scope. And resources, we don't necessarily mean resources, cash. It's about, like you had, she has to have partnerships, she has to have to negotiate for, timelines for not paying and stuff like that. So that is one thing. But I want to focus mainly on growth and talk about my experience during the COVID time. It has been, I must say for me, an amazing time. Interestingly, somebody was somewhere having a drink, and somebody said, this has been probably the worst time for anybody. I said, wow, that's very interesting. This could have been my best time forever. Why? It's because we realized very quickly that there was going to be shrinking space for what we ordinarily did, and we were supposed to move into a new dimension and new direction. So we diversified in our own product offering, just like you have heard. At least say they had a small sit-in, probably friends, sit-in, small family. Now they have gone to huge, platform that can host huge families and clubs. So we had to diversify at Net Worth Consult. We believe that our net worth is purely from the networks we build. And we are in consultancy, yes, and we prefer to do businesses that are not obvious in this country, that require a little bit of breaking the brain, because those do not attract so many people in this country. A lot of people want it the easy way, so we try to avoid the easy way. We go the hard way. So we expanded our services in social safeguards to include areas that we had never been to, and close some that we thought were not meaningful anymore, that did not allow. Particularly, we closed some areas for infrastructure safeguards. That's a whole day, we need to talk about that, but that's what we did. But then also we looked at the oil and gas sector, which we think is very competitive now. We have been trying to enter it for so many years, and we tried to develop capacity for our staff. So we started by registering for ISO standards, taking our people through training and skilling, making us, supercharged at the front where we are, so that if we meet any international or regional company, we are able to compete with them fair and square, but also looked for meaningful partnerships with companies that have an edge over us, especially in the region, while we maintain foot for things we are doing very well. We also were able to diversify into construction, civil construction and road construction, because we realized again that because of COVID, there were not so many people reaching out looking for businesses, but some clients had put a lot of their businesses online. So we quickly registered with PPDA online platforms, so we're able to access business from clientele, especially international organizations that do not necessarily want physical interface, but also have business that we can actually get by simply sitting down and designing a document, and we send and we negotiate online. And most of these businesses have not come through yet, but we see our next year and the year after being a very good time, because it is now that we are locking in most of those things. I cannot more than enough emphasize the issue of marketing. Marketing has since migrated as well. It is online, it is virtual, it is your presence. You can carry as many business cards as you can as a sack, but if you are not online, if you're not present, if you're not visible, and that's why the young people today who are virtually very fast and quick have an opportunity to actually look at opportunities and take them up. So we have put ourselves in the faces of our clients. We have looked at our websites being improved and how we link our businesses. For example, for our luxury tour company, we do not do, naturally we do exhibitions abroad. We go and exhibit in Dubai, in Germany, in Finland, to get high-end clientele. But we were able to do that this year by attending virtual exhibitions online. It becomes cheaper, it becomes better, it is also sieved because you don't have to go through the hassle of meeting everyone. The guys who organize target you to the right people, so it has been much easier for us to do. So in a nutshell, it is marketing, but what are you marketing? You must have a very serious product online. And I had somebody scared about being duplicated or anything. I can assure you, no matter how many times people duplicate things, if you know how to do things differently and give value to your clientele, they can only come back. The same people always come back to consult you. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Edwin, with that rich response. You are trying to preempt all my questions, but I'm prepared for you. You spoke about cohesion, you spoke about the value of partnerships, and valuable partnerships, not just anybody. Going out there and sieving, do I need to meet so-and-so? Are they a right fit for me? Somebody gave the analogy of dating. Don't just get any co-founder. Date them for a while. Get to know them. Get to know their habits, get to know their likes, lest you go so far and break down. And it's very, very, very deadly to lose up to 50% of your workforce. If you're two co-founders and you lose 50% of workforce, that's a lot. Liz talked about bringing the team on board and, you know, involving them, enfranchising them to the cause of Rosaho. I would really like to hear about that at some point, but now, I mean, after we hear from Amanya about this technology animal that those born before computers find so hard to understand, and those who are born into computers, those who are tech native, are so easy. How? What are those technologies? Describe to us those technologies that can be leveraged for business growth. He's talked about attending international exhibitions, which were cost effective. I mean, saving up to $10,000 on a flight and a hotel trip to exhibit is something for any business. What are those technologies that you're employing that that youth out there, that whoever is starting out there can employ?
Thank you.
Expansion.
Thank you very much, Alan. Allow me to say, first of all, that I believe that technology on its own is an innovation. And you could say that innovation in business is those different ways that you deploy that make it easier for people to accept your products and services. So, technologies that you can employ to grow a business or to stay afloat. Like Edwin said, we are in the digital age right now. Believe it or not, ladies and gentlemen, we have had a lot of moments where we hear people saying they are working from home, they have Zoom calls. I'm a member of Rotary, and you know, I no longer have to struggle going through JAM to go to Africana maybe for a meeting, if that's where the meeting is. I simply log on to my phone, and that's it. So we need to be able to utilize, first of all, mobile technologies. When I was seated there earlier, I was using my phone to respond to emails from office. Back then it was a case of you have to be seen in office, sit there, and do your work. I'm not giving it to you as a way to go on holiday in maybe Capture and CCP, and you respond to emails for people to believe that you're in office. But all I'm saying is we no longer have to be in the very place at office in order to be doing work at office. I'll be in Captura. As long as I have a connection, an internet connection, I'm responding to mails. I'm probably attending meetings on Zoom or Outlook or whichever platform that you're using. And to couple that up, now we have cloud-based computing. Back then, there was an element of, the server is based in, say, Bugolobi. So if you're not in Bugolobi, you can't access the system because you're far from office. But now, because there's cloud-based computing, things are in the cloud. It is literally in the cloud, by the way. So, you know, you will be in Nairobi, you're accessing mails from office, you're accessing the system at office, and you're able to pull off whatever it is that you need to pull off. We also need to make use of these, how should I call them, like social media, the Twitter, like they like to say, Twitter, Facebook. If there are any government workers here, please note we don't use it because it's closed down. But yes, those digital technologies, we need to make use of them. And I'm sure among us here, there are people that have probably bought or sold something online, maybe through their WhatsApp groups, maybe on Jumia, maybe on, I think, OLX, or, you know, one of those platforms, because it is simple like that. And one of the things I've discovered as part of the business we are doing, you will think that downtown people don't use the internet that much. My dear, get there and see. Everyone that has a stall for shoes, necklaces, bags, dresses, I think one of the things they do in the morning when they report to office, after cleaning their stalls and stuff, they take pictures, post them. Facebook, WhatsApp, maybe Twitter, for some that are on Twitter. And that's the way things are happening. You don't even interface with the person because there is a delivery mechanism. You simply look at what you like, make the order, they deliver to where you are. If you have Kajanja, you'll go and pick it from there. Otherwise, you know, they make it easier for you. Yeah, and then of course, looking at the other aspect of the bigger end of things, we have softwares. You could call them productivity softwares. So these are things like CRMs or client relation management tools, maybe like there's one called Solid, maybe there's another one called SAP for some of the accountants or people that may know. You have a system, you see, like in our business of technology, of internet, you begin from doing a survey at the client's premises, and then you receive the payment, then you do the installation, and then after manage the customer's needs. All of these are documented in the system, and it makes you work in a smarter way, other than saying, oh, I went to the customer, he signed here, he's ready to, you know, receive the service, and then you take back maybe the receipt, please, thank you. All these are done simply, and you know, it helps you to save on costs. Yeah, so we need to be able to embrace technology and be able to work things smarter, save on costs, and make things work out much, much easier.
One final question, Mr. Manya, and in 1 minute. We need to embrace technology. And you said you have young children out there. There's a pitfall of technology. We can't take that bulamba lamba. How should we embrace technology? How should we embrace technology safely and meaningfully? Yes, where it will not harm us now. Yeah, in 1 minute, please.
Where I studied my secondary school, one of the few schools in Uganda, our CRE told us that change is a fact of life. If you don't change, I think change will change you, or something like that. Ladies and gentlemen, the change is here. Not the political change, please. I'm talking about the technological change. We are in a time, the other day at home, my maid was asking me for the Wi-Fi password. And I had to debate whether it will enable her to remain productive or not. I said, to be advised, hold on, I'll let you know. But, you know, I'm trying to tell you that everyone is embracing technology. From the children that are 2 years, they know how to take pictures. They know how to, I think some slay queens, probably their children are on TikTok, perhaps. I've seen our socialites, their children are on social media. And this is something we need to embrace, but safely. we need, at Rock Telecom, we have something called Rock Protect. Now, Rock Protect, as long as you're using our service, it helps you to set certain, should I call them parental guidelines? Maybe if you don't want, if you want to limit, say, unsolicited, content, maybe like porn, you can block it. If you want to limit them from using it, say, during the day and they keep it for nighttime or nighttime only or whatever, you can do exactly that. So, on top of giving people internet, we're also trying to emphasize or to encourage to use it safely. Because the very internet that we are using to change our lives, to make us bigger out there, is the very same internet that is going to mess us up. There are some social media sites that are not blocked or don't limit content, and you find that the things that are there are really appalling. But yeah, let's keep it safe, and let's watch what our children are watching and be aware of what they're doing. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much, Mr. Amanya. To you, Liz, I see you on Bunkenke, and you're right to be on. You mentioned about team. There's an interesting statistic that 68% of startups fail because of lack of a team or dysfunction on a team. You seem to be so close to your team, being that you involve them in issues of shifting. I don't know if I would involve my team into the intricacies of business, but it has worked for you and it has worked for you well. Please let us know how that has paid off and the value that they bring right now as we wind up. It's on.
Hello? Yes. So, of course, one of the key elements of a business is the people. And there is no business that can succeed without a team that is ready to put in the work, regardless of the conditions and situations around them. I think the first thing is being clear about what you need, your need as a business, and then hiring the right people. Hiring for attitude, for me, is so important because I remember when I started off, I had 2 chefs who had applied. And it's an interesting story. So at the time, we were in Naguru and were still constructing. So these guys came, and this particular guy who is now my head chef, he used to come every day before he had even been given the job. He used to come from the time he dropped his application. He would come and say, Madam, oyagala nkole ki, waliwo mulimu ki, which is not chef related. And so that made the difference. It showed me that he had the right attitude to work. So that was a winning thing. So I think in this day and age, where we have a lot of, what do you call it, entitlement from many of the young people that we have, they feel they are educated, they are skilled, and so on. So they are not willing to go the extra mile. Any single extra effort they put in, they'll ask you, how much? Mfunirawa. So attitude is very important. Of course, skill cannot be neglected. And then also interpersonal skills, especially when it comes to us who deal with clients on a day-to-day and guests. And you find that someone will come. I believe that in the restaurant business, we not only serve food, but we actually give, I would say, a place of rest, and a place of rest for people, a place of relaxation. So sometimes someone, you obviously find that the client has come when they have had a bad day, and they've come maybe to have a drink so that they can cool off, or to have a good meal so that they can relax. So they'll find fault in everything. So your team has to be ready to put aside that and remember that the client is king, and be able to put aside their own feelings and be able to manage this. But of course, he was talking about technology. I think one of the things that technology has done for us is that it helps us to be able to understand our clients better, to know what they want, and to be able to give them a more personalized experience. When we get to know that whenever Edwin comes, he takes a club beer, okay? So then we know that, and we keep that information. So when you come, the first thing, you feel like these people care about you because they know your preference. And that is one of the things that a good team will do, is that they will remember their clients, they'll remember what the client wants, and they'll always be willing. We always say, put your feelings and your bad day at the door and come in with the right attitude. Yes.
All right. But you speak about attitude, like it's something that they brought. And yet, I feel like you did something, specifically when you were moving to your next location. You said you spoke to them, and I believe that was cultivated from management, right? Please tell us more about building the team and what's the glue that's holding the team together?
Okay. I think the glue that's holding the team together is, number one, we have a shared vision, because right from day one, especially with the leaders, I've shared the vision with them of where we are going, what we intend to do, and their part. And I always tell them, you know what, you're a key part to this growth. This business cannot do anything without you. It cannot move to the next level without you. So it gives them that feeling of ownership, because they feel like, yes, this belongs to us, it's our baby. It is not just my baby, but it's our baby. But that has come from me sharing the vision with them. And it has come from me trying to understand their needs. At the beginning of the year, I sat down with them and I asked them, each and every one of them, what do you hope to achieve by the end of this year through working? What can Rosaho help you to achieve as a person, besides saying, oh, you give me new skills or what? But you, as Chef Said, what do you want? I know that Chef Said wants to have a motorcycle by the end of this year, so I'm on Bunkenke. Every coin you bring to me, I'm thinking, I need to plan for Chef Said's motorcycle. So I know their needs. And then also caring for them, because besides them bringing their skills, they are human beings, and they have needs. They have things that are important to them. They are fathers, they are husbands, they have family, and so on. So we celebrate their birthdays. When they have, this year we've had 2 new babies, and so we give them a small package for them, and a time off for them, which means, of course, an extra cost, because if the head chef is off, I have to hire someone to come and step in. So those little things make them feel valued, and in return, they give back because they know that you care about them. Yes.
Wow, that's really insightful. Thank you so much, Elizabeth. Edwin, you used to do team building, excursions, and I mean, this was part of your business, and you saw it as a valuable component of any business that wants to grow. Give us an insight from your view about this team building animal.
Okay, I'll just build on two Liz's point. One, we have a crisis in this country, and I hope through the innovation hubs and everything, we can be able to resolve it. It's every employer's dream to have a good team. It's very, very important. I mean, you can't have a business without a team. But I find it very strange. In fact, we were just discussing with Liz before we came on stage. I wish there were more of these things, such talks, than even there were lectures. For the last about 10 years, I do not look at anybody's qualifications past A6 and graduate. I actually don't. I employ attitude. I rather pick somebody who has had enough of this, who is willing to be trained. I put you somewhere, train you, skill you in what I want, and have you for an employee. Why? A lot of times we have never, you don't get, I can tell you, just what Liz said. What won the gentleman a job is not really because he had gone somewhere in Nakuru or Naivasha for training. He probably did, but a little bit more than. And those are the things you want to build on to make a team. Today in Uganda, for the young people, unfortunately, there's a lot of time wasted into useless issues, even programs. I think the most watched program today is called An Cat, something like that, where people really shout every evening. I wish there was an opportunity for such programs for people to pick some information to learn from and really get their attitudes in fit. Because today's employer, in fact, I was telling Liz, I do not believe anymore that there is something called there are no jobs. Not at all. There are actually so many jobs, but there are no right people. And the right people are there. They think they are right because they have been able to graduate. They have a master's like I do, so they think they're actually qualified. But the attitude and the real skill set is actually off tangent. So then how do we build these teams? I'll just use my own experience. Through COVID, it was a hard time. You know, we work with some organizations that even their staff entirely closed office. So there was no payment. You know you have money somewhere, but it's not coming through. But what's very, very interesting, I did not let go of any of my employees unless they chose to go. So we retained all our employees. Those that were not necessary, at the moment we asked them to keep home. I approach employment differently. I don't believe in having people in office all the time. I had somebody talk about it. I actually don't like it. My employees work. They don't work me. You must work. You must do your work. So if you have work this week that requires you to be in office for 2 hours, I am comfortable with that. I do not want to see people's faces just because they have to show me they have come to work. I don't do that. So it's something that I detested because when I worked with the government, I found that was a measure of seriousness, that somebody has to come and put a coat on the chair and seem to be around and do nothing the whole day. So I detested that kind of approach. No. So my people, first of all, I do not put any pressure on them. If you know we have a submission to make to World Vision on Thursday, and you are in on Tuesday, you are done with your reports. On Thursday, we have reviewed. It's actually okay for you to send in the report on Thursday. Friday, you may never appear. Monday, I don't need to see you. Tuesday, if we have a coordination meeting, you can appear. It allows them flexibility to do other things that otherwise would have been a burden to me. Now, I did not lay them off, and I took, to be honest, quite some months without paying them. What shocked me, though, is that one of my staff, who was in Masindi on a project, on an infrastructure project, lent me money to achieve a few things that I even did not share with him, but he knew they were necessary, and he lent money to me and said, you know what, kindly, if we can do this so quickly, it will save all of us. I think only one person last month asked to go for further studies. I granted them to go, but I was shocked to come last week, and I found them again in office. I said, Chief, what's up? And he says, boss, I'm still here for some time. So what am I saying? The teams are built on what we do for each other. Beyond the job, there is a social us. Just like you had Liz say, people have gone through challenges. People have lost some loved ones during COVID. A lot of employers just simply said, it was a pleasure meeting you. We can't employ you now, go home. But if you hang in there with your employees, stood with them when they had COVID patients at home, COVID parents, did your level best, employees can tell that you are trying, no matter how hard it is or how tough it is, you're actually trying to be with them. Be as compassionate. I usually ask somebody, I used to realize that most of my employees would come between 10, they are very focused, then lunch, they probably want to meander away, so I realized what the problem was. We also assume quite often that it's very easy for anybody to have breakfast at home. So what I did, I simply did very basic things. I go to a confectionery, I said, how much is a loaf of bread? It's about 5,000 shillings. So can we have one here every day? Or if there are so many, can we have two? Instead of buying 1 kilo of sugar, I buy a sack of sugar. So I put it there, and it's in the store. Instead of buying a few kilos of rice and posho, I buy as much as possible and put it there. But I mean, it was a COVID time. If you could share those few with them to take home, they probably hang around. Now, it is obvious that somebody will have a cup of tea. Then I got a resident chef. Instead of buying food, because everybody is going to spend the little money they earn, to go and look for food. And guess what? Then they will come anytime, because they're all looking for food differently. I got a guy, she was actually a lady who used to cook in the market next. I asked her how much money would you be paid. I was shocked at her request. I said I will double that and do much more, hang around. And I see my employees between lunchtime and up to 3, they are smiling from here to here. Because guess what? They design their menus, they design what they want to eat, they choose when to eat and what. And it's those small things really matter a lot. In the evening, they're able to have a cup of tea before they go away. And now what is scratching me and killing me is to be able to say, I have vehicles to drop them to their next locations so that each one of them is. Now, those small things. Now, those that were unable to work, I did not sack them, I did not fire them. I asked them to keep home, and when money comes in, we make sure we pay their arrears. I have realized that for me to thrive, I will need a team that trusts me, that works with me, but I'm also compassionate about. To that extent, if there, as you heard I said, we are doing ISO training. I'm not being trained for ISO. They're the ones being trained. I'm spending money on them. I mean, if a guy walks away tomorrow, he goes with his ISO training, but I must invest resources into the guys I employ. So the teams are built, yes, or not mere structuring and design of framework and training, conflict resolution and building faith. No, what we do every other day, a good morning, a good afternoon, a pat on the back. Somebody has a wedding, he's a young man, he has no resources, how you step in, how you advise him, how you give him some counseling on a number of issues. All keep these guys around you, because the company at the end of the day is actually running because of you. You are the stem cell, and if you break or do not hold a team together, certainly it collapses. So teams are amazing, they are important. I usually tell my team things I cannot stand. I can't stand a thief, a dishonest person. I can't stand a toxic person within my team. But for as long as people are working respectfully and they are integral and they work as a unit, I would do anything, even if somebody has just an S6 level certificate, to make sure they have the best qualification to be retained, because those are real assets in a company. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was our panel. Haven't they been worth it? I believe they have delivered and delivered far exceedingly than what we expected. My takeaways, my personal takeaways from this panel were that attitude was lacking. Just the attitude of being part of something that's greater than you, something that's going to build you, and like Edwin said, it's unfortunate the type of graduates we have, and he is even willing to work with senior six leavers than work with graduates. Yes, even S4, on the basis of attitude. So we're losing jobs to S4 leavers, and I think even a smart S1 leaver can take your job if he has the right attitude. So it's not a question, I don't know if that is gospel truth, that it's not a question of no jobs, but a question of no people to fill the jobs, no right people to fill the jobs. So that was my takeaway. And then empathy, just from us who have had, you know, the chance to hire someone else, just have a bit of empathy. Include. And that was that from our panel. I'd like to take, there are three. I'd like to take 3 questions as we wind up the day, ladies and gentlemen. Jean, do you have a question? You're looking at me like... Yes, Esther, do we have questions online? Microphone, please.
Well, thank you. So we're talking about expanding. And when I think about human resource, I'm curious about the future of our Ugandan people in terms of exporting our potential as human resource. What are you doing in regards to cross-cultural boundaries, and how can, you know, a startup out there, just a young person, how do they position themselves, and what is it that you have seen that is lacking for us to kind of compete beyond the landscape of Uganda to position favorably? Is my question clear?
Yeah, what do you need to compete favorably outside Uganda?
We have another question. Maybe they'll respond to that.
Okay, I think the first thing is to be able to identify what your unique selling point is. What is your uniqueness? What can you sell out there? Because even as we talk about sponsors and partners, no one wants to partner with somebody who doesn't have anything worth on table, anything that they bring to the table. So as you come to the table, what are you bringing to the table? If you want to be sponsored, are you sponsorable? That's a thing you should ask yourself. So I think as Uganda, one of the things that you need to do, or as young entrepreneurs and as young business startups, what is your unique value proposition that you're going to put out there? And then secondly is you also need to be able to understand the market that is out there. How are you going to be able to fit yourself into the market out there? If, for example, you want to go to Nairobi, I imagine of course, we have the market leaders, and for me, one of the market leaders in my industry is Java's, Cafe Java's. So I imagine that in going to Nairobi, they had to be able to understand the market and be able to adjust their menus to be able to fit within the market. I know, for example, Java House, they have Katogo now because they are Kenyan outfit, but they realized that, you know what, in Uganda people like Katogo, so they had to make an adjustment and include Katogo on their menu. So what do you have to offer that is unique, and have you understood the market out there? What can you do to fit within that market while meeting the needs of that market? Yeah.
I think these are also Chinese. Now, one of the things that really, and that's why I say we have a lot of work to do, especially the government has a lot of work to do in this country. Let me tell you, I've been lucky to travel largely to a big part of the world. When you meet a Ugandan in Lagos or Abuja, and you meet a Ugandan in Swaziland or Zambia or Lesotho or Botswana, Ugandans are thorough. I'm telling you, there's this facade that Ugandans are laid back. We are very, very tough as far as business is concerned. I have seen a Ugandan, a young man called Brian. I used to do projects with him here with a small company. And his proposals by World Bank were the best. He now runs between Nigeria, South Africa on one stretch. Very young, hardly 35. And does all the projects for World Bank. So the Ugandans, if you ask him, I met Ugandan telecom guys in Zambia. They are running the market, Gumpo and the rest. You go to Swaziland, wherever we have set foot, the only challenge we have, and I think that's why maybe there's a need for these hubs to be, incubation centers to be a bit more organized and see how best to support our Ugandan people. Even if you went to USA, even if you went to Sweden or Norway or wherever, there will be a Ugandan. I was once in Vegas and I had gone to have a good time with my friends. So unknown to us, we just carried our hard cash, you know, because we're excited about the September 1st. So we just dumped our money at the hotel and said we wanted rooms for 2 weeks. And we pulled out all our cash at once. It was about $6,000. And they called the police. Said, these must be drug lords or some thugs. Because the lady told me it had taken her about a year without seeing a $50 note. Because they use cards. But that was about 7, we didn't know, and that's what we could do. You know what was shocking? They said there's a Ugandan called, I don't know whether Musisi or something. He apparently supplies uniforms and appliances to all the major hotels in Vegas. So when they told him they were Ugandans here, he came, took our cash, and swiped his card. And he took us all over the place, Nevada, for an entire, I don't want to say whatever happened. That one lives there. But what I'm saying is, there's this facade that Ugandans, let me tell you, it's just, you just need to play different and get out. There was a question about export. There's a lot of information that even the institutions themselves have. Don't share with the young people. If you go to Export Promotion Board today, and you look at quotas of products under AGOA that actually you can add a little value on, especially crafts. And see, they're actually tax-free. And see how many quotas, but they only need to be designed the same way, same weight, and where they need to go, so that our people get this information. A lot of people keep saying there are no jobs. Yes, because you see, for them, jobs means somebody earning a salary at the end of the month and earning a wage. So, but this information is not known. There's even money at UDB. But again, people do not know. And you find that the people who are benefiting from these lots of monies are the people who already actually have all of it. So, and then people start thinking, maybe you need a godfather somewhere for you to be able to do anything sensible. I can tell you, you don't need a godfather. I will tell you for a reason, I don't need one because I never have one anyway. I have a father, yes, the natural father. But a godfather in business, because everybody, even if you have him now, what happens when he dies? You won't have offsprings. I can tell you before you came, there were people who had godfathers in this town. And their business is here. So what matters is what Liz is talking about. What are you selling? How do you do it differently? I was in Nairobi when Javas was opening, Cafe Javas, from Uganda. And you know there's this thing, oh, the Ugandans cut it, or the Ugandans cut it. Let me tell you, if you go there now, Mandela showed them business that they have never seen. Everyone left Javas, the real Javas from Kenya, and went to Cafe Javas. They are at this guy. He's actually looking for in places in Westlands and other places to expand because they could not believe the recipes from Uganda. So I have this confidence in the Ugandan person. The creativity, the entrepreneurial skill, the capacity to thrive and be frugal in any moment is amazing. How much are we doing for a guy who goes to Switzerland and says, I can start something for $50,000? How can I access capital? I was just telling Liz, I have so many friends of mine. I chair an investment club of about 25 people, and within about 2 years, we have been able to raise $1 billion shillings or so, but for real estate. But we are pulling money back out of real estate. Guess what? Because an Indian is jumping here with money about 3 billion at an interest rate of 1 or 2%. And then he finds Muzamiru, who is borrowing from DFCU Bank at 28%. You simply can't do that kind of business. So the framework, the policy and regulatory framework has to be meaningful if these hubs are going to have anything sensible to come to Uganda. Otherwise, I have no doubt in what Ugandans can do, what they can export, what they can market. They are ahead of time. Go to West Africa, go to Southern Africa, go to East Africa. Everybody plays below the bar where there's a Ugandan.
Thank you so much, Edwin,
Wow.
for that insight. It was really an eye-opener. There's money out there, and you'll have an opportunity to ask him where the money is for a few moments after that. Edwin has been one of those people in my life who, you know, you look up to and you want to be like that person or twice as big as he is. The same with Liz, who ever since the inception of SMS1, I mean, at the start of text messaging, they were at the front, and they did it well. So it's packaging yourself very well, being prepared. Edwin talked about having those PPDA documents. I mean, are you able to give services to government even when there's lockdown? Are you able to, you know, find a way out? And that's the spirit of entrepreneurship. It's resilience, it's perseverance, it's making it where there are roadblocks. Thank you so much, Amanya. You have been a good guy. You gave us internet. We are grateful. You gave us your words of wisdom. Thank you so much. There haven't been any more questions, so I'd like to close this with a photograph with our panel. And then you can reach out to them. They do some mentorship, and it's easier these days. I mean, remotely, etc., etc. You can reach out to them and, you know, find your way around the hurdles, the pitfalls that you may have. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Let's just stand here for a photo and...
All right. Thank you so much, Alan, for moderating that session. It's been a really, really, really nice session. I somehow didn't want it to end, but of course, time is always not our friend. So after the picture has been taken, we will have just maybe 2-3 minutes at the other table for those of you who may need to just interact with them for about 2 minutes at the table that is at the back, where you can exchange your business cards, and then we'll let the guests go. In a minute, we will be welcoming our next panel. that will be streaming live on Hubilo and our other platforms. A panel that is being hosted by one of the members of Startup Uganda, and that is the Innovation Village. Their panel starts in a bit and is looking at harnessing the power of digital transformation in the creative sector. We are still talking about growth. It's a Let's Growth panel, and again, it is looking at harnessing the power of digital transformation in the creative sector. So ladies and gentlemen, we will be going in for that panel discussion shortly, that will be streaming live on our screens, but also on the Hubilo platform that is the official events hosting platform. Thank you so much, and let's have maybe a minute or two to probably say hi to our panelists as they move out. But again, there is a table just in case one of them wants to say a few words to you privately. Thank you so much.
Yeah, sure. Thanks. So my name is Ville Vaklin. I work for FCA. I've been working for FCA a bit more than 5 years. My background is in education. I've been working in the Finnish education sector for about 10 years before joining FCA. I've also always been a part-time songwriter on the side, kind of having that as a side job. And yeah, I started with FCA in 2016. I've been working on many kinds of entrepreneurship training programs, kind of developing new concepts on TVET ecosystems and entrepreneurship mostly in Uganda, Kenya, but also in Jordan and Cambodia. And yeah, with us today I can briefly introduce our guests, but I think they can then later introduce them in detail. We have Lorraine Charles, from executive director from the MAL, who's specializing in remote work. Lorraine has also been doing a lot of research on digital livelihoods, and is one of the leading experts in that space. And we also have Timothy Adwine, who's a Ugandan media professional and entrepreneur, who's also our first trainer in our creative industries program, currently running in Ruamancha refugee settlement in Western Uganda. So glad to be talking with our colleagues as well. So first of all, we want to talk a little bit about why we care about creative industries. Now, Jenny, could you maybe mute yourself? I'm here.
Yeah, let's try.
Yeah. So there is a significant growth potential. If you look at pre-pandemic numbers in a global economy, creative industries was one of the employing more young people than any other sector. For our work with youth, so this is quite self-explanatory why this makes sense for us. And according to our research and experience, when we've been doing and planning for this program, is that creatives in Uganda and Eastern Africa in general lack the know-how, networks and channels to deliver their products and services. And also a challenge that we realized is that governments in the area do not generally value the creative industry as a potential source of income or potential career path. This is also something we want to be part of changing. And on the opportunity side, we see that the data costs are decreasing in the area, and there's improved access to online services. To give you a concrete example, when I first visited Ruamancha refugee settlement back in 2016, it was still almost impossible to send SMS to anywhere, to anyone, unless the sun was shining and the wind was blowing in the right direction. And these days, we have frequent Teams meetings with our trainer Tim, who's based in Ruamancha. So that tells how fast the kind of connectivity issue is improving. Obviously, it's not the same for everyone, and there are still areas that lack the connectivity and devices, but I see this is something that's improving constantly. And ultimately, with the AI coming and automation of work, the creative work is very difficult to automate, and Jenny will talk more in detail about future of work and creativity later.
Yes.
Over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Ville. I guess that this we wanted to share this slide with you guys because this also explains what we do very well. This is a slide from World Economic Forum. It's actually released already a couple of years ago, and they keep releasing new data annually. But however, this is a slide I've shared recently with my students in Finland, with our students in Uganda. And this kind of gives a great overview and explains why we feel that our trainings are important. Because if you look at the top skills of the near future in a couple of years, you see that creativity, originality, technology use all define the future work life. And as we all know, the digitalization has an effect everywhere, providing also a lot of potential for growth. And now when we keep in mind that in Africa, the potential workforce, the potential young workforce will be among the world's largest in just a few years. So we really need to push the youth to learn the vital future work skills. And the digital creative industries, which currently basically mean all creative industries besides performing arts or arts and crafts, they really strive from digitalization, and many of the professional skills are also transferable to different jobs. So if you have skills like in graphic design or online content production, those skills can be used in many different professions in almost every industry. So in general, all creative skills provide a very wide range of job opportunities, and of course, due to digitalization, also without borders. So to sum it up, creativity and entrepreneurship and digital fluency are all among the most important skills needed in order to succeed, well, obviously in the creative industry, but also in the work life in general. And all of these skills that used to be defined as specific creative industry skills are now the most important skills of the future work life in general. Let's move on, Ville.
So yeah, to tell something about the projects that are ongoing at the moment. First the history. So we have been developing the creative industry program together with Jenny for the past 2.5 years. We managed to pilot back in 2020, January in Kampala, just before the pandemic hit. We piloted with music production and game development, gathered about 30 young creative talents from all over Uganda for a 1-week workshop. So obviously the pandemic put a pause on a lot of things in the world and also us. But this year we finally managed to secure funding from different sources to turn our pilot into projects. In these projects, we partner, well, I'm an FCA employee, Jenny is a consultant working for us. We have partnership with FCA, Caring Hands at the moment in Kampala. We in a project that we will explain more about later. And we have also partnership with Estonian NGO Mondo here in Kenya, where I'm based at the moment. We have funding from FCA, Finnish Foreign Ministry, Estonian Foreign Ministry, and Fingo Power Bank project. And as mentioned, we have projects currently in Uganda and Kenya, and obviously we are all the time looking for new partnerships and ways to scale the program. Okay, yeah.
Okay, so let's go briefly through some of our existing projects. So as Ville said, we are currently operating in Ramanja refugee settlement. FCA has had a vocational training center there since 2016, and it's funded by the Finnish Foreign Ministry. Throughout the years, FCA has gained really good results. So since 2016, over 2,000 youth have been trained in mostly market-led vocational skills in more traditional professions. And majority of the students in the center are Congolese refugees. So about 70% of the students are Congolese. And approximately 1,700 youth have been employed by June 2020. So the statistics were updated a year ago. And that all includes self-employed and youth that have been employed by more formal wage employment. And so, as you can see, FCA has a strong background in vocational training in Uganda in general, especially in Ramanja. However, the programs there focus on more traditional professions like carpenter, agriculture, tailoring, motorbike repair, etc. And obviously those professions are very needed. However, we felt that it would be important to provide something that has a digital aspect in it. So finally, we managed to start our first creative industry training program this September. And me and Ville actually just came from Ramanja. We were there doing some teaching ourselves a couple of weeks ago. We've started up a photo and video production training program that is a 6-month course, including practical training. We have, I think the total number is now 22 students, and obviously because the studies need to be very tightly tied to the working life. So the studies will also include entrepreneurship education, focusing on creative industries. And this is currently the component that we are kind of providing a little bit support on to get that started. So this is Ramanja, and then we also have another project going on currently, and that is in Kampala. So this project is actually partly Fingo funded, because this is our Fingo experiment. We have a 1.5-month course with a local NGO, with a Finnish-Canadian NGO called Caring Hands. And we have total of 15 students participating in the course. They started beginning of November. Me and Ville were there for a couple of days workshop kicking off the training. And this is more like an introduction course focusing on essential current and future work-life skills, entrepreneurship education, and transferable digital skills. Also, one very crucial objective of this ongoing course is to introduce the students on an online learning platform. And this component especially is our Fingo experiment. So the course aims to expand the students' digital skills, and it is actually divided in 2 parts. So the first part is the introduction to entrepreneurship and work-life skills. And as I said, we started the course with a 2-day contact learning seminar. And after that, the students have continued studying online on an online platform where me and Ville have created the course and are daily monitoring their success. And the second part of the course is basics of photography, and that is done only in contact layering. Here, actually, in the picture, you can see our photo instructor, Brian, who is now doing the course. And of course, we also, since this is the first time we're kind of developing an online platform for these topics, so we also want to make sure that the photography training that Brian does meets up with some of the tasks that focus on entrepreneurship and entrepreneurial skills on the platform. So we kind of syncing these two parts together. But these are both projects that are currently going on, and we are working on acting as project developers, but also implementing the teaching ourselves. Ville, you should tell a bit about our upcoming projects.
Yeah, maybe I just wanted to add on the kind of online part, which I'm particularly excited about. We've built the online part of this training on Finnish online platform called Planet, and it's the first time for us, and we had no idea how, because obviously online learning has been on the headlines for a long time, but it seems like still quite a few NGOs or organizations in general does it like anywhere. So we've been happy to realize that it's very much possible, and everything is going quite smoothly in Kampala. Yeah, so we are now planning projects for next year in Kenya. There's one that's already ongoing. We are already recruiting trainers and students for training in digital creative industries and entrepreneurship in Nairobi urban area, in the slum areas of Dandora. Our target group will be urban refugees and youth. But we also are planning a wider FCA program for creative industries, urban training to begin next spring in Nairobi. And we'll be selecting the fields of training according to market research. We want to focus on those creative skills that are transferable, very much in demand in different companies across the sectors. But we also always want to kind of also push these upcoming professions such as game development, maybe music production in the future as well. Jenny, do you want to add something here?
I just wanted to add that the first project on the slide, the Nairobi Urban Project, that is actually a project led by the Estonian Mondo, and the project is funded by the Estonian Foreign Ministry. And we started this project in August, and we are currently at the stage of selecting students. Our aim is to train 250 students in total in both digital skills and creative industries. And it will kick off with the digital skills part provided by Mondo, and it will continue with our creative industry training. And this is also something that me and Ville will entirely plan on an online platform. So it will be very, very interesting. And this is also why for us it was important to have the experiment now with our Kampala project, how to work with an online platform with our target groups. Yes.
Okay, some of our learnings.
Yeah, let's go through some of our learnings. So first of all, we've been doing this now with Ville for a couple of years. We've actually finally managed to implement some trainings ourselves after the pilot. It has been a bit challenging with the COVID. We had to do everything from home because we've just not been able to travel. our key learning from all of this so far is that youth motivation is very strong. And we interpret it that there is a really high demand for creative industry training. The thing is that I guess everybody here knows that sometimes in some African cultures, it might be a little bit challenging to motivate the youth to come on time. So when we started this, actually in the pilot, we scheduled all our trainings, keeping in mind that there has to be a couple of hours transit time, so to say. However, to our big surprise, when we did the pilot, all the students were there before us, and we literally had to kick them out when the sun set down in the evening. And this has continued. These are our experience, whether it's Ramanja refugee settlement or our current project in Kampala. The students are very motivated. They are always in time. They are fast. They are eager. So that has, of course, been very motivating for us in developing these projects. Then the networking thing. Obviously, especially, well, in all work life, networking is essential in the modern world, but especially in the creative industries, where globally the majority of workers are self-employed. They are small businesses, micro businesses. So obviously you cannot do anything alone. So that's one very specific characteristic of the creative industries, that networking is essential. And what we've also found out is what Ville already mentioned when we started this, that one of our reasoning is that the creative young people, talented young people, they lack the networks. And we feel that setting up these trainings can also help at the very early stages in connecting youth and professionals. And that has been also a nice result of the projects we've done so far. Then one key learning, and especially from my point of view, coming from the business life, is that these type of trainings are very dependable on the private sector. That means that for these type of trainings, we need to find business people and entrepreneurs as trainers. We need to rely on the expertise of the private sectors. We look for partners in the private sector, etc. So NGOs really need to adapt new processes for smooth cooperation if this is something that wants to be pushed. This is the same thing that, from my perspective, I worked with NGOs for years, and I say that NGOs love to talk about digitalization, but what does it actually mean? What does it actually mean in concrete? This is the same thing. NGOs love to talk about the need of cooperating with private sector, but what does it actually mean? It means engaging, changing information, it means contract, it means bidding, subcontracts, etc. So this is one of our key learning also, that there has to be some new processes adapted by NGOs for these type of trainings. Then I guess we had a couple of, did we have some more? Yeah. This is something I always love to mention, because we have different type of trainings, and even in short courses, we feel that this is also about widening youth's horizons in new potential employment opportunities and introducing them to creative industries, because youth is same everywhere. As I told you in the beginning, I'm currently working as a creative industry business teacher in Finland, teaching similar age groups than I'm doing in Uganda. And even though the context is really different and the background stories are different, obviously from unemployed Finnish people comparison to unemployed Ugandan people, but youth is youth. They have the similar type of dreams and hopes and career wishes, and we also have to remember that the youth in Kampala is watching the same YouTube as the youth in Helsinki, Finland, or they are consuming the same digital content online as our Finnish youth are. So we are kind of like trying also to open up their eyes to different employment possibilities when they are following up the internet or using the internet content. And then I guess last, and please Ville add something, but last but definitely not
Maybe
least.
Maybe you could add something to that's kind of also linked to the previous point, is that we also kind of want to widen the use horizon within, you know, the creative industry professions they are training in. For example, think about, for example, music producers, like the music producers we met in the first training and during the pilot. Many of them kind of had like the only aim at making that, you know, top 10 hits and making a living out of those, you know, 1, 2 top 10 hits. But what we wanted them to understand is that while you're kind of chasing that, you know, single chart dream, you can still work in various different, like cooperating with different creative industries. Such like you can be making music for example, commercials, doing something for films, TV, working with the gaming people, building up new mobile games or whatever. So the opportunities are more than just that kind of niche where you've chosen your career in.
Yes, yes. And then the last point, this is something that kind of came up many times within the last 2 years, and actually just right now in these ongoing courses. So we kind of want to make a distinction between creative skills and creative industry professions. And as I explained, the two projects we are currently conducting, the one in Ravanja, that's vocational training, aiming to give the youth a profession. They will become photographers or videographers or video editors or etc. So they will become creative industry professional. But in the Caring Hands project in Ravanja, we are providing them with a new creative skills. They will not become photographers. Obviously, they will be trained about 4 weeks. However, they will be equipped with the new creative skills that they can utilize in their everyday life. They can use it to market their own businesses or use it to brand themselves or whatever. So we feel that both of these kind of angles are very important. However, I wanted to bring this up because we've kind of come across this, or at least I have come across this several times, that it is important to kind of distinguish these two. But having said that, currently we are actually doing both type of trainings. I think these have been some of our key learnings ourselves, Ville. Do you agree?
Yes, definitely. Should we move on? So, by the way, we encourage you to leave questions on the chat, which we can discuss at the end of this session. Just like whatever comes to your mind, we're happy to share. Okay, then we would like to welcome Tim, our photo and video production trainer in Romania. He should be somewhere online. I saw his face already.
Yeah.
Tim.
Hi,
Hi, Tim.
Hi, Bill. Hi, Yoni.
Hello.
Great. Hey, good to have you on board, and thank you for the last time. It was great to visit the training in Romania and see the youth and you interacting with them. It's great. Hey, so we wanted to ask you some questions about like the training, and also maybe if we have time, also a bit of working as a creative in the Ugandan creative industry. So you've been training the youth for some months now. So what do you think of the training so far?
Oh, thank you, Vile. I mean, that photo clearly shows you what you experienced when you came. A lot of excitement, a lot of eagerness to learn. Myself, I didn't expect all this, but the youths are catching up so fast. They really want this. You see that they're already trying to start up their own businesses. They're already starting to use photography, especially to market their own products, because some of them are already were already doing it using their phones. Now we are introducing training that is enabling them to actually do it professionally and try to showcase their art, showcase their products, also tell their stories, because at the end of the day, we want them to tell their stories to the rest of the world and also share what Ramanja has. If many people here don't know where Ramanja is, but Ramanja is a very remote area in Uganda, and for the few youths that we are dealing with 20 of them right now, and so far we are seeing a lot of improvement. They actually want to produce content that can be that can compete with the rest of the country. So that to me is a plus, because I believe this project is going to really change lives in Ramanja.
Mm-hmm. You actually already kind of answered the question I was about to ask you next, because when we were there a couple of weeks ago, we were kind of surprised of how goal-oriented they were, because let's keep in mind that they started the training in September, so they have not been there so long. And we did some exercises with them where they identified their kind of skills and identified some of their kind of professional identity. And they had very clear ideas what they want to be. There was a group of directors, group of camera operators, group of editors, etc. So that was obviously very, even I might even say surprising. However, my question to you is, do you see that how does their professional identity develop? Because now what you said, that they are already starting thinking about their businesses. So where do you see these young people in the next 5 years?
5 years is a bit so long. I think. Yeah,
but what do you predict?
That's a long time.
What do you predict?
Because these are creatives. These are creatives, and I see them in the next maybe 2 years already engaged in a serious business, especially in the aspects that I'm teaching them, photography and videography. Already, like you said, they're already choosing different aspects of film that they want to actually continue to do. But this is because I expose them to a variety of different aspects of film and photography. So they have to go through each and everything. They have to practice sound, they have to practice camera operation, editing. So when you go through all that, you end up falling in love with maybe one of them that you can major in. But at the end of the day, I teach them how to make money. I'm not only teaching them how to be creatives. I encourage them to look out for businesses and also be able to play different roles on different people's sets, yeah, so that they can make money. Yeah, this is how you can survive in Uganda if you are a creative, especially if you're practicing photography and videography.
Yeah. Ville, let me add one thing and then please add the next question. This is actually, Tim, it's good that you brought this up, because let's share with our audience that the reason we chose photo and videography to be our first training program was obviously because it provides a lot of transferable skills, a lot of skills that can be utilized in areas of work life in different sectors. So if you have the skill of video editing, or you have the skill of photography, you have a lot of employment opportunities in different sectors. So not all of them will set up their own photography studio, or not all of them will come film directors. That would be crazy for us to assume that. But we are equipping them with those type of creative practical skill that have demand in the work life in general.
Yeah, just to add a little bit, maybe I didn't mention this, at Ramanja, that's just the beginning. This is the pilot phase of the program, and we are focusing on photography and videography just for the beginning, but we plan to also introduce fashion design, also music production, and other different creative industry businesses that we can teach at Ramanja. For now, we are concentrating on photography and videography just as a pilot phase, but it has had a very good reception.
Thank you, Tim. So glad to hear the updates and your work. So we have a few more questions about mostly like going to kind of overall situation of creative industries in Uganda. So
yeah,
very wide question. How does the creative industries look like in Uganda at the moment?
In Uganda at the moment it's really broadly spread quite across different sectors. I mean, many youths have really started engaging in creative industries as self-employed people. We have seen a lot of change, especially in different, in fine art, in design. We are seeing a lot of youths, newcomers especially, yeah? In photography, videography, we're seeing a lot of newcomers and also improvement in work. So generally, I believe that the creative industry is still growing, but it's growing at a very good pace, and there's still a lot of room for many youths to actually join it. Yeah.
So last question, what should be done to make creative industries a potential and kind of respected career option for the youth of the future in Uganda?
Sorry, I didn't hear that.
So what should be done to make creative industries as a potential career path for the future youth in Uganda?
Oh yeah, I mean, the first thing is to take it seriously, especially with the trainings. Yeah? The training bit of it is what introduces the youths or the participants to the work they do. Professionally, especially, they have to understand how to do this work for commercial purposes. So I believe one of the things that has to be done is to improve the training facilities, especially for the places that are already training creative industries, but also for new players when it comes to training different training sectors of creative industries. The other thing I can think of is encouraging the children, especially at a very tender age, because we know that many parents encourage their children to go the education path, with a strict education path, but it's a good thing to blend training them in creative industries as well as their education, so that they can nurture these talents as they grow up, and maybe in future they can do a lot of things on their own without necessarily looking for employment. Yeah.
Thank you, Tim. We are so glad that you had the time to join us and that you are working with us in this program, and we're looking forward what the future brings. So thank you for now, and we move on to our next topic. Thank you, Tim.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ville and Jenny, and also Tim. I hope
Emma,
you can continue.
We still have some stuff.
Yes, you can continue there, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Jenny, I'm not sure what we agreed. Do you want to take this slide, or should I?
Well, we can continue.
Yeah. Okay. So we've already kind of touched on this issue of digital creative industry and why we want to focus on especially the digital creative industries. One obvious reason for these days is obviously the COVID. I mentioned earlier that pre-pandemic creative industries has been one of the fastest growing economic sector globally. But obviously during COVID, a lot of the creative industry sector is relying on kind of live and interaction have been on pause and have suffered a lot, not only in Uganda or East Africa, but also in Finland and all over the world. So we for this reason, one of the reasons we want to focus on digital creative industries, and also kind of seeing the opportunities for employment, not just if we have a training program in Uganda for the youth to be employed within Uganda, but also the kind of without borders opportunities digital creative industries bring to workers. If you're good enough and if you can manage to build your networks in a way that you can work basically anywhere.
Yeah. Let me just say something regarding the COVID, because obviously it's important to remember our focus, which is the digital. And we all understand and know that COVID has also had a very dramatic effect on the creative industries. So when we talk about digital creative industries, we can talk about, for example, content distribution. And the distribution has succeeded. However, the production not so much, since it's restricted by COVID rules. So obviously this is something that affects the digital creative industries as well. But we also know and understand in every part of the world that the consumption of the online content has increased dramatically due to the COVID pandemic.
Yeah. So maybe this can serve as a bridge to our next interview with Lorraine. So obviously the digital creative industry also offer us this kind of global horizon for digital employment. We are very much interested in kind of also exploring on how companies globally can hire remote displaced talent in different contexts. And we have been planning this collaboration with Namal, who specialized especially in training refugees in remote work and connecting them with different internships globally. And with these words, I'd like to welcome our dear colleague and friend Lorraine on board.
Hi, thanks, Ville.
Hi, Lorraine.
Hi, thank
welcome.
you. Thank you. Thanks, everyone, for joining. It was such an interesting discussion so far. Maybe I'll introduce myself very quickly. So I'm, as Ville says, I'm the executive director and co-founder of NAMO. I'm also a research associate at the Center for Business Research at the University of Cambridge. And NAMO was born out of my research looking at the problems with refugee employment, initially in the Middle East, but of course thinking globally, and trying to find a way for us to really address the issues which we're facing now. So maybe before Ville asks your question, there are two things I want to say. And the two things are COVID has changed every company into a tech company. Before COVID, the whole idea of working remotely was only for very few companies that believed in this space. But COVID changed the world for everyone. It turned every company into a tech company, essentially. And the other thing is, we talk about the future of work. The future of work is today. I know, the World Economic Forum and the OECD, they're like using this terminology, around the future of work. But that's actually today. We're living this today. And COVID has accelerated the pace at which we've had to adapt to how the world was how the workforce was moving, but now it's just galloped ahead of us. And in a way, especially in our sector, the sort of development NGO sector is always the last to catch up. So we really have to accelerate the way we move and to reconceptualize how we think about this space.
Yes, thank you, Lorraine. Would you like to speak some more about Namal, what you do, and how do you link to the future of work, or the work of now?
The work of now, work of now. So what we do is, as I said, Namal was born out of my research, and I wanted to, to help, our community reconceptualize the way that we think about employment. So when I conducted my research looking at the problems that refugees face, the big problems were we were just conceiving work to be within our borders. And as we know, most refugees live in contexts where where there aren't enough jobs even for the host community. So how can we, so my challenge to myself was, how can we find a way to link refugees to jobs which weren't in their host community? And at that time, I was working remotely myself. I lived in the UAE. I worked for a UK organization, and I'd been doing lots of remote work, lots of work for different organizations prior to this. So the whole idea that one can sit anywhere and work for a company in another country, it really made me want to understand how this can be adapted to the refugee context. And this is how Namal was born. So what we do is, if you look at the next slide, we provide the skills to work remotely. And I've sort of put the same, the same chart that we looked at earlier. On this list, on this top 10 list, there are 2 technical skills. All of the skills which the WEF, and I have the Human Skills Matrix by MIT on the other side, all of these skills are soft skills. What's called soft skills, human skills, non-technical skills. These are the skills that are required for the workforce of the future. These are the skills which are the most difficult to teach, the most difficult to learn, but the ones which employers most desire. So this is what we do. We provide our learners with the skills to work remotely, the skills that the employers are asking for. And, and both these, these sort of diagrams, they might look different, but a lot of the skills which they are repeated in just a different format in both. Skills like communication, critical thinking, leadership, resilience. These are the skills that employers want their employees to have. So this is what we do. We provide training in these skills, and then we link our learners to dignified remote jobs. And, for us, this is really important. We don't, there's a lot of talk about, the gig economy and platform work. Yes, it's great, but a lot of this is a race to the bottom. We really want to show that you can transcend this sort of gig, the gig, low paid, low skilled work. We want to link refugees to, to decent work. And this decent work with companies, and then with companies who understand the talent is everywhere. The talent can be found outside the national borders. And as COVID has shown, a lot more companies are waking up to the fact that they need talent. In North America and in Europe, there's a huge talent gap. Companies can't find the talent they need. So
that was actually my next question.
Sorry,
obviously, I know you have a huge network of different kind of actors in your networks, and I know that you've been also talking to a lot of companies, global companies, to engage in something like this.
There is an interest, but it's slow. The populations, that we work with, that the FCA, that Namal, that other organizations work with, these populations are new to the companies which we're looking at. And Yanni spoke about sort of, what do you say, the intermediaries, the sort of, they lack the networks. So that's really what we're trying to provide. we act as an intermediary to sort of help companies access the talent and help the talent find the companies. Because just like any graduate from any university, when you graduate, you don't have the networks to help you find a job. Often, in Western context, it's a university alumni network. It's your family that helps you find work. Often, refugees don't have access to these networks. That's what we do. We provide access. And often, because the populations that we work with, as I said, are new to the companies, we sort of provide the face and the sort of guarantee that the talent they're recruiting have the skills, the technical skills and the soft skills to really do the work. We want to ensure that all our talent, which we present to the private sector, are globally competitive. That's the important thing. They aren't going to be hired because they're refugees. They're hired because they have the skills, and the skills are needed for the companies. So companies are coming on board, but slow. There has been no wide scale employment of refugees remotely, but we're trying to change that. We're really pushing the agenda to change the narrative for what it means for refugee employment.
Thank you, Lorraine. Jenny, do you have something to add here, or should I continue?
No, I just, what do you think, Lorraine? I was looking at the questions we thought of asking you, that what is the biggest reason you think that companies should hire refugees and displaced talent? How do you pitch this? Let's say you meet up with a company, a global company. How do you pitch this to the company?
That's a great question. So I think, I have three different approaches or three different points I make. The first thing is companies can't
recording in progress.
Sorry. Companies can't find the talent they need. There's a huge talent gap. There's so much, there's data that shows that in North America, there's a huge talent gap in the technical space. In Canada, they need more computer scientists and more tech people working in tech than the country can produce. In Europe, within the next year or two, employers will struggle to find the talent. In the Netherlands, I hear companies complaining that they can't find the talent. So the talent aren't within their geographical borders, so they need to start looking outside of their borders. So that's the first thing. You need the talent. The second thing is we know that the diversity within a team is better, and it's not just better, just to tick the boxes. It's better in the profits. Companies need cognitive diversity to really have a much more robust product, much more robust system, much more robust strategy. And the talent that we're producing will provide that cognitive diversity. So when we say diversity, equity, inclusion, we aren't talking about, yes, obviously we want to be inclusive. Yes, obviously we want to be inclusive. Can someone mute? But we want to be it's much more than that. We don't want to hire someone who might be a different ethnicity or different religion from the same schools we normally hire from. That is diversity, but we require much more that we're providing. They can have real diversity within their teams. The third thing is, well, actually there are a few more. The third thing is, when you hire individuals like this, if your customers know that you're hiring refugees, they know that you think about impact, they know you think about social good. Your profits probably will increase because people give their approval by their dollars. So a company that hires refugees, a company that hires underrepresented communities, if this is known, they would have much more more customers than a company that doesn't. So those are some of the ways that I encourage companies to recognize that what we're doing. It's not just because you're hiring a refugee, you're hiring someone, and you need the talent, and you need diverse talent.
Thanks. Super exciting. Are there any, I'd be interested to hear, and probably the audience as well, are there any kind of concrete successful examples in this digital remote workspace that have already been done?
Yes. So as I said, wide-scale employment is not very, hasn't happened yet. I think it's coming. So for example, we have this brilliant Eritrean refugee in Ethiopia. He's working for an EU company doing sort of, in the creative industry, sort of content design, website content. One of our other learners, a Kurdish refugee in Greece, was recruited by Facebook. I mean, he actually will be moving to Facebook, but this shows that the talent is there within these communities, and companies are slowly beginning to recognize this. So yes, there are examples. There's another Australian company that's hired a Yemeni refugee in Malaysia. She's living in Malaysia and she's working remotely for the Australian company. So yes, there are some concrete examples, but we need more. We need companies to engage with us, to hire our talent, to mentor our talent.
Yeah, sounds great. Hey, before I ask the next question, Emma, I've lost a track of time. How much time do we have?
Hi, you still have some time. Not too much, but I think you're going with the time. So you still have about maybe 15 minutes.
Yeah, let's save some time for questioning. There has been a very vivid chatting going on, so let's save some time for questions and answers.
Okay, yes, I have one last question for Lorraine, and then we can all remain and answer the chat questions.
And sorry, Ville, because now we got Tevin back. Then he wanted, after Lorraine, then he shows those videos very briefly, the short videos from Motive. Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So back to you, Lorraine. $1 million question. What do we need to do to make the digital remote work successful for refugees?
This is $1 million question. Unfortunately, the gateway to entry is quite high. To be successful remote worker, you need to have the right level of technical skills. You need to have pretty moderate to advanced level of English. You need to have the networks to access this space. So just like in the regular population, not everyone can do it. So the whole idea of scale perhaps should be considered differently to the way our sector considers scale. Because even in the regular population, not everyone can work remotely, and not right now. So one thing which I always talk about is we need to fix the supply, because the individuals graduating from school, if they come to us without the technical skills, without the language skills, it's very hard to take them from a level where they've got very basic to no digital skills, very basic to no English, and then take them to quite advanced technical skills. We need to fix the K-12 education system for refugees and provide the skills within this sector, so that by the time they graduate, they're coming to our programs with quite a high level of technical digital skills, quite a high level of English. We need to also think about integrating all of these skills which we have there, these human skills, into the curriculum. So unless we sort of fix the supply, then the pipeline, that's what. Unless we fix the pipeline, then those that we can train will become fewer and fewer, because not everyone has these skills. So that's one thing I always say. We have to fix the pipeline coming to us. And again, more training, starting at different levels. I call it my pyramid approach. We train a lot in the basic skills, and those who have the aptitude, the desire, can go further and can be trained in much more advanced technical skills. Before I sort of finish, I know we've got other people to go to. Whilst this is something that's not going to scale next year, scale to millions and millions of refugees next year, or even within the next 5 years, or perhaps it may take 10 or 20 years to have the scale which we desire. But one thing that we need to understand is for those who have the capacity, we need to invest in them. Because I believe it's definitely much more impactful, 5 people in a community earning $5,000 than 500 people earning $200 a month. Though, for those with the skills, we need to invest in them. We need to give them the ability to get the skills to work remotely. We don't want them to go to another country. We want to keep them within their communities, but provide them the jobs which they would get if they were living elsewhere. And for me, that's a sort of trick. How do we convince the private sector that it's worth investing, it's worth hiring?
Thank you. And I suppose we can still invest in both in those communities. It's not either or question.
Definitely. It's not either or, but organizations tend to ignore those, to invest in those with the advanced skills. We have to do both.
Agree. Yeah, we are definitely all our team is excited with this approach. So if you have ideas and you want to discuss more, we're happy to continue. Hey, then I think we have some videos from Motive presenting some Ugandan creatives. It's always exciting to hear from the people who are actually doing the work. So Tevin, please go on. And after that, we will continue with the questions and answers from the chat. Over to you, Tevin.
Brilliant. Thanks so much, Vile. Apologies, we had a few technical difficulties, but we're back online. Very engaging session. So I'm just going to share my screen if you'll allow me. We prepared a few videos from Motive, some of the creatives and just the work we did there. So yes, just please enjoy. Yep, so that's Motive. We also have a couple of testimonials from some of the creatives. So this is Rachel. Yeah, you can hear from her as well.
2 and 3, let's go. 2 and a billion, 2 and 2 and a billion, on 2 and a billion, 2 and 2 and a billion, on 2 and a billion, 2 and 2 and a billion, on 2 and a billion, 2 and 2 and a billion, oh, 2 and a billion,
Hi, my name is Kamanzi. I'm 21 years old and I am a singer-songwriter. I performed at Motive a couple of times, sometimes setting the mood with my Afrocentric acoustic vibes for their expos with my sister once in a while. And then for Octave is an initiative that happens where different creatives come together and showcase the talent that they have. My personal favorite Octave experience was the one that happened to fall on Women's Day. That was my personal favorite because I got to meet so many women that I've looked up to in the industry, so many creatives coming together to show the power of community and how incredible it is for people to be authentic in their different creative giftings and coming together to showcase that. And so so grateful to Motive for the opportunity to be able to share. Not only that, but the opportunity to have a beautiful space that allows us to explore and just release our authenticity as creatives. Kula baba longo abalina maso gagago kwegomba kwegomba dum dum.
Yeah, I don't know if I have time for one more testimonial.
If it's a very, very short one, we could take it. Otherwise, we could then jump to the next session. It looks like there's a lot in the questions and answers, but if it's short, I think we can take it.
I'm Jacob Ochen. I am a photographer, also a videographer, but mostly I document projects at Brown Street, not just architecture projects, but even individuals. And we have programs that we run as a farm. Brown Street it's a design and build farm. So what that means is that we do architecture projects, but we also follow up and build them. Before I joined Motive, I was just a student, I may say. I was not yet working for Brown Street. I was just doing my own thing. I was just a photographer. But then when I joined Brown Street, I took on more responsibility. Brown Street is teaching so many people. We have students interning from different universities, but then we also have students from technical institutes that have worked with us before. And also we have local people, artisans that do work with their hands, like skilled people. We also have engineers that we work with also. There's a lot of work to be done with our hands, and to see fellow young people sort of participating in that sense is a good thing. Motive is a project that Brown Street is still handling till now. It's been an ongoing project since last year, 2020. So Brown Street, I'm fortunate to have been here since it was starting, from it being built. And I saw just empty warehouses being transformed into spaces that different creatives are benefiting. Even I myself have benefited from this space. Met so many creatives and all that. But then also I've seen people learn different skills. I believe the future is beautiful because there's so many young people that Motive has given an opportunity and a platform for them to express themselves and also just be inspired.
Yeah, thanks a lot for that. That's a brief on Motive. Please come and visit us in Bugolobi, or you can check out our website, motive.africa. Yes, back to you, Emma.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Kevin. And I think now I'll would like to bring all of the speakers forward, like Yenny, Ville, Lorraine, and Tim. I'm not sure if we still have Tim here, but it would be also good to have you, Kevin, around and then we'll start all together working on the question and answers. We already have some questions or comments in the chat.
Yeah. Can I just, Emma, add a comment to the videos?
Please.
So thank you, Tevin, for sharing the videos, because it actually brought a very important point to my mind that we kind of missed in our own presentation, and that is the gender equality. Because when you think about digital creative sectors, digital creative professions, they provide equal opportunities to boys and girls. And as shown in your videos, we saw these lovely young ladies, and this is what we've experienced from day one. So that is something I just wanted to bring up. It's also a very good characteristic
Please mute yourselves, guys.
Yeah. So this is what I wanted to mention is the gender equality, and I guess that we've told this story many times, but when we started the whole thing in Kampala 2 years ago and started investigating into the game industry, and we are talking about mobile games and console games, and in Europe the gaming industry is defined to be a very masculine industry. However, the first game developers we found in Uganda were young women. so I just wanted to share this. So thank you, Tevin, for the videos.
You're welcome.
So were there any particular questions? I was so concentrated on the videos that I forgot to look at the chat.
Well, there were actually a very good discussion regarding, I think Daniel Korpela started the discussion regarding the social media skills, and I tried to answer, and Tim answered already as well. So the social media skills as far as photo and video are concerned, yes, they are incorporated in our trainings, and it is super important. And this is also why for us it's important to have teachers who come from the business industry, who have the best practices how to monetize social media. They've done it themselves, they need it for themselves. So yes, that is important, and we are also planning programs that focus more or entirely into the online content production. So the social media question was a very relevant one, and yes, we are attacking it in our current programs.
Any else, Emma? Something that you spotted from the discussion that would be good to?
And please also share comments. What do you guys think? I mean, in general, it would be nice to hear your comments on the programs we are doing.
And also any questions if you want to. It's also fun.
I think the question that Daniel had written here, I think it's much longer. I don't know if it has all been responded to. Like, how do you solve the challenge of equipment for students after they complete the course? Cameras, etc., expensive and difficult to access?
Yeah, actually, it's a valid point, and yes, we have been struggling getting the equipment to Romancha, for example, but that also goes back to the kind of processes that need to be smoother in the future, between private sector and NGOs. It's also, I think, Jenny mentioned a lot of stuff, but it's also, I think procurement is key in many cases. So, but you have, like, when it comes to, for example, photo and video production training, obviously the first investment will be higher, and then, for example, let's say if we do a tailoring training, well, in tailoring you need to purchase a lot of stuff anyway, but maybe a little bit more than in some other training programs. But I think then you have the equipment, and as the time goes on, it's going to be more evened out, comparable to other type of trainings. There are hands I see from Robert.
I'd like to add on to that, Vile. I think what Daniel wanted to know is if there's equipment for the students to use after the training.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
The answer is yes. We are going to have equipment that they will have access to, and this equipment will enable them to continue practicing. But we have also been encouraging them to learn more about the industry. I've been encouraging them to learn how to save money, first of all, to buy certain equipment, for example, laptops, personal laptops and computers. This is something they're going to have to learn to do. Also, I have been explaining to them, and they now understand that there are equipment rental companies worldwide, when it comes to photography and videography. So if they leave Romanja, for instance, and go to Kampala or to Nairobi or any other place, or even go back to Congo for the Congolese, they have to know that in all these spaces, there are equipment rental companies that they can access and then continue practicing their work.
Yes.
Thank you.
And I also want to add that this is Ramanja because it's vocational training that's leading up to a new profession. However, for example, in our current training in Kampala, we are training the basics of photography, and the training is focusing on photography with their own smartphones. So our trainer will provide some equipment, they will get acquainted to camera equipment as well, but the focus is to get them equipped how to operate with their own smartphones, because again, they are not becoming professional photographers. They are being taught how to use photography in their everyday life. So that differs a little bit. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. I think I came.
Perut?
Someone.
Yeah.
There was someone else. Robert, I think, something like this. There was two hands, but now I see only one.
Can I please?
You can go further, then whoever it was who was before you can go after. Okay.
Okay. I think thank you very much. I just actually joined the session after 1 hour of presentation, but I think I still picked something. Thank you so much. I'm a photographer by profession, a clinical photographer and a videographer. I've done medical illustration, but I'm a strong advocate for health equity and social justice. And about the question that was raised on how these students can be able to raise funds to buy equipment, I encourage that we engage them into photographic competitions that are global as one way of even motivating them to see that they get to the standards of the global platforms and being able to address global issues with even pictures they have in smartphones, which will elevate their skills and also connect them to other communities across. It is something I've been doing, and it is something I would suggest that let them keep on trying and archiving so many pictures to participate in very many photographic competitions where they can be able to earn some money that can buy equipment, as well as engage in more fruitful activities. Besides that, I would kindly suggest that, I don't know, like I said, I wasn't available in the first session, but I don't know if the photography that they are doing or learning is addressing social issues and challenges that are existing in society, which also calls for partially writing. So when we are actually seeing the problems that are existing as a photographer, what do you contribute to addressing issues of injustice and the challenges that are existing in society in the pictures that you are taking? At the end of the day, we are serving the community as photographers. We are engaging in so many other activities that can enable us get more work, because for the times that we will present to workplaces that we can work with them, the first thing they will ask us, what have we really done? And if we have a catalog of work that we've done, then I think we have a clear platform. So I would suggest that should be included. And then I'm a photographer and I'm organizing an exhibition, and I would love to connect to different communities of photographers. I don't know how can we get to this community to also engage these learners in looking at the work that we have taken and also getting an inspiration. So it is not a one-man story. I love connecting with different audiences that all do photography to inspire and also get more knowledge. So how do we reach out to this community? And then sometimes we also want to learn something, and we would need to connect with different photographers. I've liked the videos. I would really love to know, how do I access? Is there any way that we can do this? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Peruth. I think there was a few questions there. Thank you for your insights and also all the competition ideas and so on. I think they're very valid. Obviously, in our programs, to answer you quickly, is the kind of, it's not kind of, it's employment. You know, we want to find ways for the youth to you know, earn money, make a living from their new skills. Obviously, we want them to engage also when it's possible in more social issues and all that. And I think Tim will be also taking the students through those. But our main focus is always, you know, employment.
Yeah. There are some questions from Daniel.
Okay, Daniel, please.
Hi, yeah, greetings. Thank you for this presentation. I think you guys are onto something really good and something very important. So let me just appreciate your efforts in equipping young people in Africa in digital technology, and this helping them make this digital leap. I think is you're onto something good. And I've been working in Tanzania for about 8 years now for FIDA International, and I'm just seeing this huge youth unemployment rates. Young people that are interested in technology, they have a smartphone in their pocket, but they have no job. So how can they really make use of things that they're interested in, taking videos, being on social media, all of these things as a way to earn some income for themselves as well. So I would be very interested actually to talk a bit more with you guys. If you have 5 years of experience, we're just planning to pilot this in Zanzibar. Now we have a youth center there, and we'd want to provide some relevant content for young people that they can really be part of the 21st century with skills that are relevant for today's job market. And yeah, I was just trying to ask some more questions about how you organize the program, just because we're facing the same challenges right now, and just to see how you've tackled them. One idea we had for this equipment was possibly providing them equipment after the course, and then they'd pay back the equipment slowly as they start to earn income through their own business. So sort of like a lease model that it's worked quite effectively for tailoring courses. They get a sewing machine after they complete, but of course the initial startup costs are much lower than for a camera, for example, that might be 2, 3, 4 times the cost of a sewing machine. But maybe something to consider. Pilot might be some way to enable them to get access to even more expensive equipment they might need. But if they have a good smartphone, I think that was also a great idea, that how can you use your smartphone equipment that's already available to them to use that to start earning income through photos and videos as well. But yeah, very, very interesting things you're doing. And even this bigger concept that Lorraine was talking about, that how can we really help Africans engage in this digital tech market, being employed by Facebook or some of these other big tech giants. And I was just thinking, as Finnish organizations, how can we get Rovio or Supercell or this gaming industry involved in getting people that are coding games? And you mentioned that actually, that you've got some online mobile games that you're also doing, which I think would be very interesting. And the market for that is enormous, and I think is growing all the time as well. That how can we get young people that are able to get to that level where they're able to produce content that they could even sell just on Apple and Google Play Store and so forth. But I think the road there is still quite a long one to how do we get the basic skills for young people that are starting from a very maybe basic level to be able to code high quality games that can actually be sold and compete with the bigger players. And maybe you guys would have some idea or some comment that what would be the first steps down the road, because I think all of us would love to see African youth be engaged in the global market and be competitive and be employable anywhere in the world, even remotely, based still in Africa. They don't have to travel, and all of these ideas sound very attractive, but what are some practical things we as NGOs can do right now over the next 5 years, 10 years to see this happen, maybe a decade down the road, that this would be a real reality? And interested to work together, I think, as Finnish NGOs on this as well. I think there's some potential there as well. But thank you, just appreciate your sessions today, and I think you're doing some very good, interesting work in this.
Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel.
Maybe can I respond quick first?
Yeah. I also have a comment for Daniel. So
I've got a few suggestions in terms of the equipment, because this is something that we think about, and if the budget is large enough, I always recommend you buy it, because it's a handicap not to have it. But you can also look at used items, a used camera, a used laptops. Or often, or companies, again, this is where the private sector is important, companies often recycle computers very quickly. Photographers, change cameras very quickly. So, this is something that we really need to do. There's so much digital, electronic waste, which doesn't need to be waste. So we really need to think about how we can upcycle and recycle electronics. And then the next thing is, you were asking about how can we really link the youth, to the jobs of the future. It's not easy. Just as you say, we want them to be hired because they're globally competitive. This is where the education really needs to be robust, really rigorous. And I don't think it's very difficult to get someone from basic skills to coding high quality games very quickly, but we start very slowly. Again, if you think of the pyramid, you start really slowly. You train a lot at the bottom, and those who have the capacity, you sort of invest more and more, and eventually you'll have a few, but you have to train a lot in the basics. And I think as NGOs, you sort out that, you pressure those in the K-12 education system to get the pipeline sorted. If the pipeline's not sorted, then in 10 years, we'll never have the skills anywhere to do this.
Yeah.
Thanks for that.
Yeah, I'd also like to comment, Daniel. Thank you for your kind words, but also a couple of very good points. I want to stress out that now I guess that due to the nature of our Ramanja project, the photo and videography has a very particular meaning right now. You have to keep in mind that when we started to plan this a couple of years ago, our main goal was to work in the urban areas. And we designed this as a tool for NGOs to reach the urban youth. However, FCA does not work in the urban areas in Uganda, except a couple of Women's Bank projects. So they suggested that could we maybe design something for the more rural areas. And when you think about Ramanja and you think about the market in Ramanja, it makes no sense for us to start pushing game development or music production or any of those that we piloted in Kampala. So we did our research and we came to the conclusion that training them in photo and video skills will provide them opportunities to employ. There's endless amounts of weddings and portraits and all that the youth can do. But this particular sector obviously needs startup investments because we need to buy equipment. But then when you think about it a little bit broader, as you said, we can easily start teaching youth simple photography skills, social media skills with their own smartphones. But for example, for our upcoming projects in Kenya, where we are about to train over 200 youth, we will obviously not start training them in photo and videography because no NGO has that money to equip that. But as relevant are other creative basic skills like graphic design or online content or all of those skills that bring you the new opportunities to get employed. So I'm only saying I myself come from the audiovisual industry. I worked in the film and TV for 20 years. So I think I have a broad understanding of utilizing the audiovisual skills in general. And I just wanted to point out that even though we are now currently talking a lot about photo and videography training because of the nature of our trainings, because of the location of our trainings, we are still planning other areas of creative skills to incorporate it in our future training programs.
Yeah, maybe to add also that obviously, I think our biggest investment will be on those transferable creative skills, such as photography, graphic design, online content, all that. But we still, as Daniel, you raised up a question of game development. We want to be in those kind of up and coming sectors as well, because we see the potential of for example, game development in this continent. Just looking at the numbers, the growth rates and all that, it may not hold enough workplaces right now for our students in big numbers to get employed. But we believe that this is something that's growing. And if you look at global numbers, which was actually a surprise for me and Jenny as well, that gaming industry is twice as big as film and music combined. So this is something that we really want to kind of be close to, and our future programs, at least I believe, I hope Jenny doesn't interfere, but I hope that we will have the game development side of things existing as well.
And we have to have it, but we have to have a broader perspective. In game development, it's a very technical, it's very practical. You need coding skills, programming skills, but you also need the audiovisual graphic skills. You need graphic design skills, you need photography skills, you need audiovisual design skills. All of these skills are in the game development. So we can move towards that. And to be honest, when we did the game development workshop in Kampala, I mean, the investment was zero, because all they need are some licenses to some softwares. It's about having like good trainers that have the perspective. We had a couple of programmers, but a lot of students came from the background of video editing, from 3D modeling, from graphics design. Those are skills that are kind of brought together in the gaming industry.
Yeah, and Daniel, happy to continue the discussion with you too. I think we are actually linking up with some of your colleagues in the region in coming weeks. So we'll be happy to exchange ideas.
Any more comments, questions?
There was that one raised hand we missed, but I don't know where he is now. Does anyone feel like their chance to speak was taken away from them?
I didn't actually see that. Or maybe they dropped off?
I believe it was Robert, but he seems to have dropped off now.
Okay.
Okay. So if someone knows Robert, you can ask him to contact us on LinkedIn or wherever, whichever platform.
Ville, do you want to share your website in the chat?
Website, you mean?
Yeah, if you have a website there that you want to share in the chat for people to follow your work.
Yeah, well, I can share my LinkedIn for sure, but we don't have a website for creative industry program yet. Hopefully that's coming up soon as well.
Thank you.
But I can definitely share my LinkedIn. So.
Yeah, thank you, Lorraine. Lorraine has also shared her website. There is naamal.org. So if there are no other questions from anyone, then maybe I would hand over to Tevin to close. We have at least 8 minutes left. If one of the speakers has anything to add, like Lorraine, Jenny, Ville, before we hand to Tevin?
Yeah, sure. Just a big thank you for organizing this event. I think this is a topic that is close to our hearts, and we want to be engaging with different partners who do similar things or want to partner or whatever. It was we had fun, and looking forward to catching up with anyone. I might have missed some questions on the chat, so please find me on LinkedIn and let's continue the discussion. Yeah, that's it. Yes. Stay safe.
Thank you very much. Yeah, Jenny, any closing words from you?
No, it was a pleasure again. Said we were part of this already last year and only got positive feedback and good contacts, and it's of course very exciting for us to be able to share these ideas and hear your thoughts and comments. So thank you all for inviting us.
Thank you. And Lorraine, please.
Yes, thank you. I mean, I just want to say that we need communal effort to make this work. We have to stop living and acting in silos. And if this, if the digital livelihood sector is to work, if we are to employ people, give underrepresented communities the opportunities, we need to all work together. We need the private sector engaged. They're the key actor in this space. So we need to do everything we can to bring them on board, to get them to engage with us. So I think, I always say this, we have to start working together and stop competing.
Thank you very much. That was very well said. Thank you so much, Lorraine. And I think since we have only 5 minutes left, like on myself and on behalf of Finnish Development NGOs Fingo, I would like to thank everyone for participating to our event, and especially the speakers here, Jenny, Ville, Lorraine, and also Tevin as our partner in Uganda, representing the Innovation Village. Thank you, everyone. And please, if you look at the chat, you will see the websites we have shared, the LinkedIn links there put, for example, with Ville. And please be in touch. This should not be the end. And at the moment, I would like to just give this back to Tevin, who is our representing our main partner in Uganda, where the Innovation Village is actually, the Kampala Innovation Week is actually from now. So then he can say final words and close for us. Thank you very much, everyone.
Yes, sorry, thanks, Emma. I think there's been a very engaging discussion. One of the key discussions that we've been having at the Innovation Village and at Motive has been around how to capture this value from these creative endeavors that have been discussing, because the environment has law enforcement on copyright and IP infringement, and also a lot of creatives end up in strife because there's no clear path to follow when it comes to running these businesses, because many of them are new, and the economy has been largely dependent on these formal professional structures and careers. So it'd be interesting maybe to have this discussion next time around the practical pathways to start and scale creative businesses. But yes, that's just my short submission. I'd like to thank all of you, Fingo Power Bank, FinChurch A, Namal, our facilitators, and everyone watching at Design Hub at the Kampala Innovation Week. We're excited to have you take part in this session. Yes, I don't know if there are any other comments, but I'd like to bring it to a close now.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And I think it's a goodbye. We have 3 more minutes, and
yes, and also Emma,
just say our goodbyes.
The slides with the participants. We should say. Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah. I'll wait for people to leave, then I can close the link in the end. Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Ville and Jenny and Lorraine. We'll be in touch, and I will share with you the report when it comes from the partner in Uganda, so you see the report of the whole.
Thank you very much, Tevin, for hosting that panel session. The session was on harnessing the power of